Hi everyone, welcome back to WHU TV for a very, very special live stream. It's now the end of the season. It's all finally finished and done with. West Ham have stayed up. So we're going to be talking about the entire season of the 2019-20 Premier League season. As always, this video is sponsored by the channel sponsor, guys. You know the rhetoric by now. So we've got some guests in, as you guys would have seen. So we've got Marshy. Hello, mate. You all right?
Hello, mate. Good, you?
Good, keeping good, man. We've got Bill from Garage Football. How you doing?
Hello, mate. Yeah, fine, thanks. Hope you're well.
Yeah, well, keeping all good, mate. And brand new guest to the channel, has never been on before, Frankie from Claret Blue Army TV. How you doing, Frankie?
Very well, JP. Thank you, mate.
Thank you very much, mate. And of course, thank you very much for this absolute monster that came through today. I know a lot of people think it's small, but look at the size of this bugger. It's a third of me. It's mental. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Frankie. Much appreciated.
No problem, mate.
That's gonna look really good up on the wall once it's all sorted out. Right. So, and of course, guys, we'll always have people commenting in the chat as well. So let's crack on with who's about. So Danny, welcome, mate. Hope you're all right. Andy's in as well. Good evening, guys. Nick, welcome. Daya from all the way from Ireland is in there as well. Good to see you. And Rick is here as well. So let me just double check something because I need to sort the one bit out very, very quickly. No, okay. I thought, well, hang on, we'll sort that out in a little bit. But guys, yeah. So first and foremost, as the guest of the channel, Frankie, your thoughts on the season, mate?
I mean, it all started really for me, Watford away, and that's my earliest, really strong memory. And it was a really hot day out down there, and it was full of hope. And we come away from that game just thinking we've got a striker scoring overhead kicks, and everything's looking really positive. So at that point in time, everything you thought was going to go on and have a really, really good season. And as we know, obviously from there, it sort of all fell apart. And a lot of people kind of put that down to Fabianski's injury. I'm not 100% sure whether that was, the entire reason why it all went completely wrong. But at the end of the day, we managed to end without disaster. So while it's another season that's kind of just gone by us, it wasn't as bad as it could have been.
Absolutely not, mate. I mean, you make a fair point there. A lot of people were blaming Roberto for it, which we'll come on to in a little while, of course. But it was one of the good things was I'm glad you mentioned about Watford, because you're right. That was when we all started thinking, hang on a second, we've got a good striker here. And one of the good points of the season is we did a double over Watford with exactly the same scoreline, 3-1 each game. So from one point of view, yeah. I mean, but as you say, mate, it could have been completely different. We could have had a lot of a worse season. Marshy, what about you, mate? What are your thoughts on the season?
I think I tend to agree with Frankie. I think, like I say, down at Watford, we sort of began it very well, didn't we? Like I say, hot day, everyone up for it, congregating early doors, on the beard as you do, typical way, sort of go and get there, and you're basically, for want of a better word, wiping the floor with Watford. Like I say, overhead kicks and down our end as well, which was quite refreshing to see as well. All the celebrating going on. You're sort of thinking, hang about, like we're gonna have give it a good go and sort of be on top form as much as what we can. But I think it was sort of like started in that fashion, and then it would, like I say, it was nice to end in the fashion. I was quite glad, obviously, picking up those points, obviously leading up to the last day of the season, because it was more sort of a sigh of relief watching the Villa game. Although I think we were massively poor and didn't seem to turn up in my eyes. And there's a lot there clearly to do, and the deadwood have got to be sorted, and hopefully the signature of a couple of players that can improve us. But yeah, like I say, we to get those points and to go to places like Old Trafford when they seem to be finding their form and obviously chasing the Champions League, which is obviously now confirmed, and not conceding, which was goals leading up to that, double over Chelsea, double over Watford. But hopefully, obviously, going into next season, now that we know that we've confirmed up and the season's done, we can look to maybe prepare in the right way and try and kick on with vast improvements from this season, really.
Absolutely, mate. I completely agree with you. Bill, what are your thoughts on the season so far? I mean, obviously, there's more to talk about than we've talked about so far, but in general?
Yeah, well, like the fellas have said, I mean, it was a good start to the season. We're in the top six, I think, after we beat Man United 2-0 at home. And then, I don't think, Fabianski's injury held, but I think the poor and predictable tactics by Manuel Pellegrini didn't help him. And I think the lack of squad building in the summer and getting rid of players didn't help us, which caught up with us in the end. And we had a good end to the season, but that middle was absolutely rubbish, wasn't it? To put it kindly. And just sort of glad this season's over. And it's been bad sort of on the pitch, but obviously off the pitch with coronavirus, pandemic, etc. So I'm just glad it's all over and we're at least going to be playing Premier League football again next season.
Absolutely. I mean, guys, for those of you that are watching, put your comments in the comment section while we're talking about things. It'd be good to get your input on top of us four as well. But Bill, absolutely, and you brought me straight onto what this part I wanted to talk about. So I'll let you answer this bit first. Other than what you've just mentioned about the tactics, where do you think it went wrong for Pellegrini?
Yeah, I think Fabianski's injury didn't help. Obviously, he's a good goalkeeper. I mean, he's come back from injury. He's made a couple of mistakes, but since he's joined the club, he's been brilliant for us. And having that goalkeeping ability taken away from us, and his leadership qualities, and I think the defence massively missed him. And obviously, Roberto's got to be one of the worst goalkeepers in Premier League history, and he played obviously far too many games before Pellegrini finally realised to drop him and bring in David Martin. So I think the injuries to Fabianski didn't help. The sort of inflexible tactics didn't help us. So predictable to play against. And I think just, the sheer amount of points we've given away throughout the season. Obviously, David Moyes was part of the problem with that as well. But, we gave away a lot of points under Pellegrini. I think, defensive mistakes, individual errors, lack of concentration. It's all built up. And I think, it was a combination of reasons why eventually he had to go.
Yeah. I mean, we kind of saw it coming. I mean, the victory over Chelsea gave him an extra bit of a breathing space for a little while, but we all saw the writings on the wall. Marshy, what are your thoughts on the fact that basically, as Bill's just said there, over the two managers, we've dropped 26 points this season? I know it's not brilliant, of course. I mean, obviously, we were always going to drop points from leading positions, but we could have been fighting for where Watford were basically fighting for. I mean, how do you think it went wrong in your eyes? At least for Pellegrini.
I think, as we just touched on there, I think Moyes was part of the problem as well. But I think with Pellegrini, especially, I think obviously, it's a desired effect at the start, getting a very well-known manager, a very successful one at that as well. But coming into a side like us, I don't think, dealing with the players he's dealing with in the comparison to Man City when he come back from China, won the league, that QPR game, I think obviously not knowing for me personally, I think not knowing his strongest 11 a lot of the time. Yeah. No plan A, and then obviously when we had to resort to the plan B, conceding the goals, as you just mentioned, when we were in front especially. I mean, that must be a record amount of, points within a season in a calendar year that's been dropped. It makes you wonder sort of where we would be if we could have sort of clung on and sort of played a bit better football. And I think maybe he wasn't obviously used to being in the section of the league, if you like, that we were sort of supporting at the end of the day. And I think he's more of a manager that, is used to the success, he's used to the top end of the table. And it's very difficult once you're sort of knocking about down the bottom and, you need a lot of results. And I think, like anything, innit, when it's all going good, he's the best thing since, sliced bread if you want. But when it's going to shit, maybe obviously, and in the end, not the right man. With the, was it the Leicester defeat after that he went?
That's right, yeah.
Which was a terrible, obviously, for Brendan Rodgers to come down and sort of essentially play a reserve team, for want of a better word, and still get a result. That sort of sums up, I think, what we're trying to say. But yeah, dropping the points, I think the no game plan as such, like I say, become very obvious to play into the hands of the opposition as well, if you like. So hopefully now with Moyes, I'm half looking forward to, I know a lot of us have knocked him, and maybe as he come out and stress the facts and explain that, he wasn't given a rub of the green initially, in his first spell, and hopefully in the second spell, he seems to be saying all the right things, but then there's the saying and the doing, and it's two different things. So hopefully we can build off the Pellegrini and learn from that, and sort of, like I say, improve in the areas that we need to, and then sort of prepare in the right way and hopefully kick on.
Absolutely, mate, completely. Frankie, what do you think was what do you think that Pellegrini did wrong that he could have actually done a little bit better, bearing in mind obviously the squad was and still is quite massively unbalanced? Do you think is there anything that Pellegrini was doing, or like in the formations or the tactics, or any sideline advice that you feel that he could have done a little bit better?
I think what you've just said there is exactly the problem that Pellegrini had, and that was that the squad was completely imbalanced, and we was lacking those players that we know we'd needed for such a long time, and it weren't addressed. And his own undoing was when he come out and he said, we've got 2 quality players in every position for this season. Where he got that from, I don't quite know, and I can't really work out how he thought that he actually had 2 quality players in every position, because he didn't. And I don't know whether that's drummed into him from the board and whether that's how those sort of messages come out. But did he really sit there and think, I have got a really balanced squad with 2 quality players in each position throughout this season? Because one thing that I couldn't work out is everyone, once the window had closed, and I think it was a little bit off of the Haller signing, and everyone gets a little bit excited, all of a sudden everyone's coming out saying it's a 10 out of 10 transfer window. But if you look at what went out and what actually came in, it was completely imbalanced. We didn't have enough striking options. There were positions that we knew needed to be addressed that didn't get addressed. And that's all transpired throughout the season. Everything that we knew could happen ended up unfolding as the season went on. And I just really struggle looking back on it, because when that transfer window closed, I sat there and said, I can't believe everyone thinks this is a 10 out of 10 window. I think it's a 4 out of 10. Yeah, we've gone and got a big striker, we've got a marquee signing, but there are still massive gaps that we have within that team that haven't been addressed. So I don't know what you guys felt, but was it a 10 out of 10 window for you at the time?
No, definitely not. We finished 10th the season before, and I thought we'd do well to match that based on the fact, like you said, Frankie, where the lack of forwards. We had 4 really good forwards, Premier League experience in Pellegrini's first season, and Arnautovic, Carroll, Hernandez, Lucas Perez, and for all of them to go and to be replaced by 2 forwards, Haller and Jesse, who've never played in this league before, and you also got Antonio as well. That was always going to catch up with us. I'm not saying we would have been in the relegation zone, but to get 10th would have been an achievement. The fullbacks, that's been a problem for a couple of seasons now, not just the season just gone. That's been a problem that wasn't addressed. And centre midfield, we let Fernandez, Edmilson Fernandez, and Pedro Obiang go, and they weren't replaced. And they would have done a job for us at that times this season. So, yeah, I think, as I say, I think relegation would have been. I wasn't expecting that with the players in the forward areas we had, but I certainly didn't think 10 out of 10 was definitely not. No, I don't know where fans got that from.
Like you say, Bill, I think it's the we haven't we've as such wanted to strengthen in the right areas, but not necessarily the right players. And then when they've got to come over, they've got to adapt. When they're coming from these other leagues, and I've always said that I don't think the Premier League's just an easy one that you can walk into, duck to water sort of thing. You can't do that in this league. For me, the best league in the world, and you got to adapt to not only a lifestyle, a way of football, coming with a new manager. And obviously now, like you say, it's becoming more and more apparent, obviously, towards the back end of the season that we're struggling. And as Frankie said, to have your backup players in every position. You look at other teams maybe around you, they're streaks and miles ahead of us. We're sort of looking at as we'll no doubt get into the transfer window. Within the summer period, even what with the pandemic going on and quite how it's going to work, I don't know. But I think it'd be interesting to see the sort of calibre of player. I know he wants to go 25 and below or something, and build a sort of younger generational side and push it forward with his ambitions and whatever. But it was just easy to see we were weak. We're not strong enough, and we need to get the best out of the players in those positions that are going to, as you say, going forward in them areas that are going to make the difference. And we obviously haven't done that this season.
Well, this is the worry, because we've always said for for as far back as I can remember, especially over the last decade, we always need to improve our defenders. We always, like you're saying, Marshy, and Bill, you've mentioned it as well, the fullbacks. We've always needed to reinforce our midfield, and we've always needed to reinforce the attacking options as well. What blew my mind, like everybody else's was as well for that matter, was the fact, like you said, you know, we let Bill, like you said, you know, we let 3-4 players go that we could have held on for at least maybe one or two of them, especially should have really given Perez a bit more of a chance. Like you say, we brought in 2 strikers and we only really relied on one for the entire season. Now, just jumping into the chat quickly, Nick makes a very, very good point from South Africa, saying that the game against Palace ruined the season. I wouldn't go that far, but it was certainly one of the starting points of it, that's for sure. Andy saying the manager's reluctance to change Roberto was the killer mid-season. Marshy, as you were saying. Nick has also said Pellegrini was decent, lost the dressing room this season. I think his signings were good besides Roberto and Carlos Sanchez. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Sanchez yet. It's a player that, you know, from one way or another, doesn't really need to be mentioned, really, because we didn't really have that much of a see that much of a sight of him. But again, you know, he was brought in to reinforce. I mean, okay, granted, Soucek's done that now. He's reinforced that defensive midfield position, has massively improved us. But having said that, though, as we mentioned earlier, you know, we've done the double over Chelsea, we did the double over Southampton, we did the double over Watford and Norwich. We were unbeaten by Man United this season as well, and to a lesser extent, unbeaten by Brighton. Because at the end of the day, guys, Brighton have always been a bit of a thorn in our sides. Always has been, right from day one. Even when we were playing them in the Championship, they were very, very difficult to get around. But the interesting thing is going on about talking about the transfer window, right? There's in the summer, because as some of you guys may have seen, I did when the accounts came out in the end of January, beginning of February, I did a video about it, and I said this doesn't make sense. There's something missing here, which is one of the reasons why I asked Hammers United to look into the fact of why KPMG have been reviewing their accounts for the last 10 years straight. Now, when it comes to doing accounts, from an auditing point of view, most businesses will only allow the same auditing company for no more than 3 to 4 years. How have KPMG been able to review them for 10? But for reasons for Hammers United, they don't want to look into it. But I've looked into it a bit more again, and this is the reason why. Because on the accounts for the 18-19 season, they confirmed that the broadcast and central sponsorship, this is quotes directly from the accounts, broadcast and central sponsorship income was £127.4 million, right? So I did a bit more digging. The TV amount of money that we got was £122.5 million. Now, in that season, we had 24 sponsors. That means we only received just under 5 million, £4.9 million from 24 sponsors. That doesn't add up to me. It really doesn't add up to me. For example, Umbro's sponsorship deal with us from 2015 to this year. We know it was upgraded this season. The same with Betway. They gave us £20 million contract, which breaks, as you know, as a maths show, that over those 5 years is basically £4 million, right? Betway from 2016 to 2020, a £40 million contract, so basically £10 million per season. So where's the £10.1 million difference if there's only just under £5 million difference between the TV money and how much the broadcast and central sponsorship is? Something's not right. Their accounts aren't as fluid as they should be, and as not as transparent as they should be. Now we're all used to this, but at the same point, there's something mathematically not going right here. Now there is an argument, of course, that it could be some of that money could be acquainted by the money they're taking back from the loan payments and everything, but still, it's a lot of undisclosed money going somewhere. It's not going on the transfers. where the hell is this money coming from? But even as I said, if we've got this amount of transfer deals going on, this amount of sponsorship deals going on, why aren't we getting more than a couple of $100,000 from each of these companies? We've got some big companies on the books here, guys. It's not like we've got, it's not like Mathens were sponsoring us. Yeah, we've got some big groups on here. Like, for example, Leica Mobile, for example, one of the biggest worldwide telecommunication contracts. How much are they paying us? We don't know, because the figures just absolutely do not add up whatsoever. Now, one of the subscribers asked me to a few weeks ago, and I've looked into it and I saved it for this video. They're asking about sponsorship deals that other clubs get from their respective sponsors. And Marshy, I said to you earlier that this will make your eyeballs spin. Now, let's try and forget for the moment that bullshit we were given 6-7 years ago about trying to compete with Spurs and Arsenal and all that sort of stuff, right? But Arsenal get their sponsorship for exactly the same period of time from Fly Emirates is 20 million a season, and they had a 30 million a season sponsorship from Puma, right? Chelsea, 40 million from Yokohama Tires, and Nike, 56.25 million pounds. Everton, with their sponsorship from Sports Pezza, I think you pronounced that, 16 million pounds a season, and they get 6 million a pound from Umbro. Now, I thought we were supposed to have somebody up in the back room, aka Karen Brady, that was a business genius. How, even with taking the Everton, which is a club roughly on the same scale as us, how are they getting more money from their sponsorship deals than we are, if we're supposed to have one of the best business people in the world as our PR person? Guys, it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. So let me know your thoughts on these, guys.
I'm worried about the sort of transfer window in itself. I mean, the fact that they're turning around and saying that the accumulation of any money with players going out is the money that will be available to be spent on new players. For a start off, I mean, as such, if various reports, widespread or whatever, with West Ham are suggesting, and let's say whether it's right or not, that they're not going to be stumping up any money for any transfers, But as I said earlier, John, on the phone, we we either want to. It's a decision to be made. It's one or the other. There's no in between. Yeah. It's, do you want to push on in this league? And like I say, no means to say, but a European place, as in Europa League, maybe. I know they give us all the spiel about, within 5 years it'll be Champions League football, or a 7-year project at the start or whatever. We knew that was, they're telling you what you want to hear, essentially, as they probably would do. But the mere fact, I think it's a worry that, if they had the best intentions for the club, as I've said for a long time, then they would put the money where the mouth is, essentially, and they'll want the best for the club, which means, spending out that money in order to, like you say, if we've got someone like Brady on the books and who, apparently profited 7 million turnover the other season, was it last or the season before that? So you would imagine that she's doing something productive, like behind the scenes. But then, like you say, with them figures and numbers with sponsorships and, various kit suppliers and whatever, it just doesn't make any sense.
Bill, Frankie, your thoughts on what we just discussed about the money coming in versus what's being recorded?
Yeah, well, but I think, considering they're all meant to be, especially David Sullivan, like a billionaire and, have successful companies, doesn't, and football, as we know, football clubs are businesses now. I know, times have changed, but they are businesses, but they've been in the job for 10 years now, and that doesn't seem they know how to run it properly. Not obviously with the results on the pitch, we're no nearer than we were 10 years ago, really. And moving to the London Stadium to progress, as Marshy said, and we're pretty much where we were. So, been in 3 relegation scraps out of 4 seasons, and yeah, it just doesn't sound right. But I mean, nothing that they say I particularly agree with or even believe, and that's just another example of it.
Frankie, your thoughts?
It's a funny one, mate. And at the end of the day, some people in business, get lucky or right place, right time. Even down to like there's been a lot of comparisons with management at the moment. Some managers are good managers at one point in time, but they don't adapt. They don't change with the times, and then all of a sudden they're no longer a good manager anymore. If you look at the way that they've managed to Daily Sport and other businesses that they've got under them, they've not adapted. They've not changed with the times. They've been completely left behind in some of the other business ventures that they have. And who is to say that they are good business people anymore? I think football commercially has changed massively. Yeah. I thought we'd brought in the guy from Arsenal who was going to come in on a hospitality level and was going to, really change things up for us and be that sort of commercial figure. And I've not seen him achieve anything other than go and get deals with Socios and then end up terminating them before they even get off the ground. And that's the people that we've got around us. I've never seen us go and make a big statement commercially or with a sponsor, and even down to the these new kits that come out, and they can't even get those things right. So for me, it's maybe they were good business people once upon a time. I think they got out of their previous venture before that industry boomed, to be quite honest with you, and they probably got out far too early. So I think if you look at their track record and you look at what they did at Birmingham, at the end of the day, they've left them in a complete mess, in a complete state. So I'm not sure they are so-called good business people. I think they're all in it for egos more than they are anything else. I think it's a bit of fun for them. It is like a real life game of Football Manager. That's how they treat it. Yeah. I don't think we run like a business. I think that's a problem. We moved on the promise of being next level as a football club. And what we've ended up with is going into a transfer window when you've just had a really bad season and you need strengthening and you need to push on a bit. And we're going to have no transfer budget, and it's a one-in, one-out policy. I just cannot believe we left everything that we left behind to be in that position now. And they must have far less overheads than other clubs because they don't have to pay for that stadium, and the deal they've got is phenomenal. They don't have the staffing numbers that other clubs have got. All round, there should be absolutely no reason why there is no. I'm not saying there should be a £100 million kitty because the climate that we're in, I get it, but nothing. That again, to me, all round, mate, to be honest with you, on the financial level, I don't understand what goes on. It's just completely not right, and we just seem to commercially just have it all completely wrong, and it is a big concern.
100%. I mean, this is something you kind of briefly touched on with Bads the other week, Frankie. When I was commenting on the conversation while I was supposed to be working, that it was one of the things I said there is having a capitalist attitude doesn't solve things. So basically, we're run by capitalists who just think throw money at the problem and it will solve it. You don't do that. You can't have. It's backfired massively. Hearing Moyes in the post-match interview that he did. After the Villa game, saying about the club spending £200 million. Technically, yes, they did, but they actually spent a lot less than that, as we all know. But at the same point, there has to be I hate to say it, because as a football club, we have to be run as a business. Because if you run it like an old school football club, which is what they're trying to do to a degree, you will be getting into the problems of that Wigan have got into, and as you say, all the crap they were causing up at Birmingham City as well, for that matter. But half the problem is the fact that we haven't got a scouting network that works properly. We've got basic League One / League Two set up at the best of times, and that for me is half the problem. Is the fact that you can't have somebody sitting there like David Sullivan's trying to do, playing Football Manager, as you're saying, Frankie, because you don't run a football club like that. You've got hundreds of thousands of people around the world to answer to when you're doing stuff like that. You have to have a proper business model. Now, the thing is that I know a lot of people have been saying, why doesn't Sullivan put in money out of his back pocket? Unfortunately, the problem is the fact that the financial fair play rules forbid it completely, unless it's done through a legitimate business. which is which, if I remember correctly, somebody commented on West Ham Fan TV when Nicky was doing his reaction about the season tickets, was the fact that why can't one of Sullivan's companies sponsor the training ground? That's how they get money put into the club. But the problem is the fact that all his money's tied up in property. You know, I'd be very surprised if he's got any enough cash available in order to do that. So that's, you know, he had to sell his, if I remember correctly, he had to sell his jewellery place just off Tottenham Court Road a couple of months ago to try and make things balance. The man does not know how to invest properly, and yet we're bringing in people that don't know how to advise him properly either. It's really is worrying. I mean, Nick asked quite a good question with on here. What happened with that Socios app? That's gone massively quiet. They're still a sponsor.
Do you mind if I take that, JP?
Oh, go for it.
So Socios, for me, because I have played around with cryptocurrencies, and to be honest, and this is truth, I actually passed over a tip on a cryptocurrency to Dave Sullivan Jr., and he actually made a serious amount of money from it. And if he had kept his investment when he made it of £2,000, eventually it would have been worth about 1.5 million. I think he cashed out when it got to something like 40-odd thousand pounds and took the profit. But I look into cryptocurrency all the time, and it's something that I am a big fan of, and the blockchain. Now, that model moving forward can be the next big thing for fan engagement, and not just in football, but in most sporting, you know, in loads of different sports across the globe. And there's a reason why UFC, which is one of the fastest growing brands globally, has signed up to Socios. It's because it's a good idea. Yet we all believed, and I think quite a lot of the fans, without looking into it in too much detail, felt it was a way to extract more money from fans, and the only way that you could have fan engagement was if you put money and invested into buying these tokens. But there is a way that you can earn tokens for free, and there is a way that if you was engaging more with decisions on West Ham, so say they said, right, who's Hammer of the Year? People who voted for their Hammer of the Year using their tokens would have been rewarded with more tokens back. So the more engagement you have with the club, the more voting. And for me, I understand that. I think if you put in more effort and you're getting involved in the club on a bigger level than somebody else, you should have a little bit more say, and I think that's fine. But I think the biggest reason why Socios didn't work out for us is because we've got a number of what are non-voted for supporters groups that try and be the voice for us fans, certainly aren't voted in by us fans. And I think they kicked up so much of a fuss about this thing because they realised actually this was the correct way to do it, and it wasn't having random people sitting in front of them speaking for all of us lot. And I think they caused such a storm around it and put out so much false information about how that could have worked. And that's why we ended up having to terminate our agreement with Socios. So now you've got Juventus, Roma, Atletico Madrid, the UFC, all signed up to this platform and all active, yet it wasn't good enough for West Ham United Football Club. What a sad place to be. I just cannot believe that, you know, a club like us that really should, you know, be aspiring to be on the same level as those clubs, saw ourselves as, you know, too good for it. I just don't understand.
I mean, I kind of think, Frankie, to a degree, it was more of an old school mentality that the majority of the supporter base has. I mean, the way that Socios was advertised was massively bad. It all kicked off last summer, pretty much, because of, again, the way things were put through. If things were explained properly to people, then things would have happened in a slightly different way. I understand what you mean, but at the same point, you know, it's very, very difficult for the fan base in general. I mean, I'm not speaking for the fan base; I'm only speaking for myself. But you know, there's always been a massive divide between those that actually want to pay attention to find out what's going on, and then there's people that are just going to actually complain at the first knock-ins. You know, but at the same point, I saw that, like everybody that actually took the time out to, so like you're saying, Frankie, I was one of the ones that said, it's a good idea in principle. The way it's been advertised is just completely wrong.
Yeah, and I'll make you right. I don't think it was advertised particularly well, but I also think we jumped to conclusions. I think having something on a blockchain where every season ticket holder and member was given the same amount of tokens to vote on things within our football club, so we can all actually have a say as a season ticket holder and a member, and we've all got exactly the same amount of voting power, actually makes far more sense than having fan groups that have popped up all over the place that we don't vote in and actually speak for me, you, Marshy, Bill. That don't make sense to me. I don't understand why these people are there speaking on our behalf, because they certainly don't represent me. However, if all of us had, as a season ticket holder or a member, the same amount of voting rights, so when something like a new badge or a new kit design come up, we could all have our say and actually have our say. Because, and I'll be interested, apparently we all voted on the badge that we've got now. I didn't, and I never even saw the vote for that badge. So if we all actually did be able to have a vote, I think that wouldn't be a bad thing.
Marshy, you look like you're itching to say something, mate.
No, I'm listening in. I find it interesting, but I think, like Frankie said, I think at the end of the day, if it was used to the right degree and, you know, and things work out in your way, but I think the attitude of thinking that, you know, maybe we're something different or maybe we deserve better, I think that goes to show the sort of people that you've got sort of controlling the club, like, you know, like we just said about the voting and the tokens, so to speak, and whatever. That would be a much better idea, you know, splitting it all across the board. Everyone has equal say, and, like, you know, when you get a vote to suggest, you know, what crest you want or, you know, what kit style or whatever, you don't see any of this. Like, you know, where do you see, like, where you can vote for a crest? Where do you see where it's what you see afterwards, you know, then it's sprung upon you. Like, it would be, you would see something like that, you know, it'd be advertised a lot and everyone would be talking about it, and, you know, you can put your vote in now and then get something back, like I say with Hammer of the Year as well, you know, you're putting your say in there and then you achieve more tokens and things. I just don't get the, you know, it's totally confusing as to how they just think that we're something, you know, a bit better, when really we should be competing with the likes of these, you know, these people that are using it and utilising things like that in the right way.
And Juventus just used it perfectly. They had their the bus design voted on for their trophy parade, and everyone was able to have their say. What a nice thing to be able to do. I just think that, you know, things like that, we should all be able to have that say, because, and then what it does, it gets rid of the arguments. We're not all sitting here crucifying the new kit going, oh, what a terrible design. Well, we would have all had the opportunity to vote for it. So there's no argument anymore. So you think they'd want to do it because it takes away that backlash.
In a way, mate. Sorry, go on.
But yeah, well, yeah, and even with, you know, we just had this season ticket issue, same thing. You know, if you're voting on the way things should be done, then, you know, it's not all, it don't all come to a surprise and we all go all up in arms all of a sudden. It causes this turmoil. So
I know what you mean. I mean, just going back to the voting, I think in a way, like for example, when the concept kits for the badge came out 5 years ago, and everybody was saying on Twitter, I like this, I like that, etc. I think that's what they use in the same way with a lot of the concept kits that were floating around, because obviously one of them was very, very close to how the design actually is. So I kind of think that I do kind of think that they use Twitter as a platform to see what we're thinking and go, right, let's try this one. I know that the idea was with the independent supporters board for this kit, which we'll come on to in a minute. But I do genuinely think that those were the ideas they were all floating around, and that's how the votes were taken without us knowing about it. Very, very subtle, but again, Frankie, as you're saying, mate, West Ham never do things the right way. We never have done, and that's half the problem. It doesn't matter if it's the right manager. It's the same. It doesn't matter if it's the same players. It's the same owners. Whatever. We always have to do things the hard way. I don't understand how we've got ourselves into this circle. I mean, I can see Gio's in the chat, mate. Good to see you again, mate. It says talking about Socios. So JP's changed a bit from a year ago. His tune. yes and no. I mean, because when it was originally announced, I jumped straight on the back of it because, as I said, this is the way it was advertised wasn't right. It didn't sound right. And then after we all had that, be a voice, not a number, or whatever the hashtag was last year. Just, it was that, then things sort of calmed down, and we actually took a bit more of a time, because I'm not gonna sit here and say I wasn't a reactionary when it came to that. I did. I went mental when I saw all that stuff. But having taken the time out after it, we've been able to look at things just a little bit better. But obviously now coming back to talking about the season itself now, because we have wandered off a little bit, but I knew some of you guys wanted to talk about this. The changeover from Pellegrini to Moyes. Do you guys, Marshy, we'll start with you on this one. Sorry, Bill, sorry, you've got to start with you, because we haven't started with you on the subject for a while. Do you think, even though that Moyes said he had nothing to do with that Bournemouth result, do you think that was a combination of the players getting together and said, right, because we got rid of Pellegrini's gone now, let's go out and show what we can actually do? Do you reckon it could have been that, or could have been something slightly different?
Yeah, I thought probably a mixture of Moyes saying to the players, you've got to earn your shirt again, and then the players probably getting together and saying, look, we've got to show better than what we've done, and they might have felt that they let Pellegrini down in a way. And Bournemouth, obviously they got relegated, and at the time they were in very poor form, so it was a perfect game for Moyes to start his second reign with us.
Marshy, what do you think the change in the increase in points, albeit one, because Moyes got 1 point more than Pellegrini did, but what do you think the change could have been?
I think maybe being a bit more knowledgeable as to the position that we was in. I think, given the away from Man United, given the managerial roles that Moyes has had sort of before maybe both spells with us, I think it goes to show that, maybe you could G the players up a little bit more, knowingly sort of maybe how important games were. Maybe, like you say, part the players all coming together, maybe the likes of Noble, the leadership qualities maybe coming to the surface with that. And obviously, like Bill said, I think the Bournemouth game was an obvious one to be able to get kick-started. But I think Moyes had as much maybe to do with that as the players did. I think they wanted to sort of, show what they can do and actually show the physical abilities and where they specialise in their all areas, and everything just come together that game. And I think given they was Bournemouth and, sort of on their arse a little bit or thereabouts, you got to beat what's in front of you. But I think they wanted to get them started in the right way. And I don't think, there was credit to Moyes in my eyes, partly for that as well. So hopefully we can see a bit more of that moving forward into the new season. I'm interested to see, like I say, maybe Moyes isn't the right manager. There's arguments to you blue in the face could go on forever. But at the end of the day, he's the manager. You've got to back him. And hopefully, the ambitions that he does have, if people can give it an opportunity to back. And listen, if it doesn't happen, which far and wide it hasn't for West Ham a lot of the years, and we haven't really pressed on, and even with all the other subjects that we've been talking about so far, it'd just be sort of interesting to see where we would be if everything sort of come together, like in the right ways, and maybe we would be sort of up there with the best of them and challenging with trying to get into the Europa places. But yeah, no, let's just see what we can do moving forward, really. But Moyes, let's see how strong he is and see what ambitions he has to and see if he can pull off what he can.
Frankie, your thoughts, mate?
For me, it's just a freak result, and that's it. I went to a lot of games around that period of time, and I went to the Crystal Palace game not so long after on Boxing Day. I went to the Gillingham game just before the Bournemouth game. All of the games around that particular time, I didn't see much of an improvement. I didn't see much of a change. That Crystal Palace game was really poor. Second half, we were so bad. I was freezing cold. My dad, who's quite poorly at the moment still, but he made the effort to go down there. He's standing there freezing, making the effort to get out there and cheer those boys on, and just a complete lack of effort still. So although that one result happened and we needed those points desperately, and it's proven now at the end of the season how important those. We obviously got that win against Bournemouth, and then not so long after we got a win against Southampton as well. Those points over that period of time were really, if you look at what's happened at the end of the season, have contributed to us, ended up staying in the Premier League. But I didn't see anything that gave me the confidence. Last time round, when David Moyes come in, he turned around and said, if no one runs, you don't play.
Yeah.
This time round, he didn't take that attitude, because what he was trying to do was rely on the people that he relied on last time round, like Lanzini's, like those players, and he was giving them the benefit of the doubt time and time and time again. And I wasn't seeing him drag those players off and last time around, I give credit where credit's due, he did do it. And he did do it finally at the end of the season, where he's turned around to players like Anderson and gone, enough's enough, mate. You're not even getting anywhere near the team anymore. So, but it took him a lot longer to do that this time round. And I actually think that's why we went on such a bad run of form in that mid part of the season there, and why David Moyes almost become our, the worst managerial record in our club's history. And then all of a sudden he went back to what he'd said before and started saying, no, if you're not putting in the effort and you're not running, you ain't getting on this pitch anymore. Luckily, we ended up bringing in players like Bowen, who made a massive difference and were full of running, and that's made the difference in the end. So I just wish when he came in, and I've got to be honest, I backed him a little bit when Pellegrini was got rid of, and a lot of people were saying, oh no, and I said, well, to be honest with you, if he does what he did last time until the end of the season, it ain't a bad thing, because he will get us fit and he will make us run, and that will be enough to keep us in the Premier League. And he just didn't do it. I don't know why he didn't do it and why it took him so long, but he got there in the end, thank God.
But also at the same point, that was what was Pellegrini's downfall as well. At the same time, like being over reliant on Roberto, being over reliant on Anderson for exactly the same way you've been talking about. So it kind of gets me thinking, because I said this to Nicky after, I think it was after the Leicester game, or at least one of the fan cams before Pellegrini was sacked. We see the same problems with all the same managers. I don't think it's based. We had the same issue with Allardyce. We had the same issue with Bilic. We had the same issue with Pellegrini, and now we're having this roughly the same sort of issue with Moyes. Frankie, I agreed when he kept us up. I thought the way that he was treated was massively harsh. And Andy said it in the chat earlier that Pellegrini was a vanity signing from Sullivan, and I get it. I agree 100%. Trying to win us over. When he came through in the first place, I said Pellegrini's appointment was a short to medium term appointment, and I was proven right, unfortunately. But at the same point, yeah, it was good to see the videos of last time and this time round as well, that Moyes doing them on double, triple drills. That's what got them fit. So and up until the lockdown happened, bar a couple of games, we were playing pretty well. Like for example, Arsenal was a 30-second lapse of concentration by Fornals, and we lost it 1-0 at the death. We were going to them toe to toe. Both teams weren't exactly the best on that.
Away as well.
Say again?
Liverpool away as well.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's just again lapses of concentration. But this is the thing. You can't really blame. I understand why people blame Roberto, because let's face it, guys, he was shit. He was absolutely fucking shocking. Like like we were saying earlier, he's the worst goalkeeper in the league for probably since the Premier League actually started. Because I certainly can't think of anybody in the last 25 years. But at the same point, we were playing as a team. We were playing well, but as it always is every single season, there's always individual errors, and it was for some random reason it seemed more like there was more and more individual errors this season than any other, because we were making more mistakes. Maybe there was confusion in who was tracking who, which we've seen quite a few times, especially when it comes to the corners and everything. But at the same point, as I said, up until the lockdown, I thought we were playing pretty well, and it was keeping that stuff up. But one of the biggest contentions at the minute, and Frankie, I know you want to jump straight on this one, son, is around about Christmas to January time, VAR was ruining the season. Now, my argument with it, but I'll put this in the form of a question. Is it the people, or is it the technology that has ruined it for certain clubs? Technically, is VAR the concept more appealing than the way it's being used? Frankie, answer that question first, because I know you're
100%. And mate, it's another Socios thing. It's another. The technology is right, but the people involved are the problem. And for me, VAR has the makings of being, the perfect fit to make football and those big decisions 100% correct. But the way it's being used is so bad. I actually think it's got the potential to be a really good thing for football. But whoever comes up with the ideas on, whoever's paid to sit there and plan things out and say, right, this is how it's going to be used and this is how it's going to be utilised. And then the people you put in control, that's the problem, because it almost seems that no matter what happens, if you remember the season before it was introduced, we was all screaming, going, how many decisions go against us? And that's what's cost us. I think there was something like we would have been in the Champions League if the decisions had gone our right way. So everyone was screaming, VAR, VAR. So it comes in, you think, oh, right, well, now we won't have them issues no more, and they won't be able to have us over with decisions and blah, blah, blah. And then they still find a way to hate on West Ham, even with VAR. So that one where Declan Rice was running through and it sort of half come off his hand but didn't, was just, how that got given.
You talk about the Sheffield United game.
Sheffield United, yeah.
How that was disallowed was,
Well, my issue with that, first and foremost, guys, like Bill and Marshy getting in on a second. My issue with that game was the fact that I can't remember the player's name, but he actually headed it onto his arm. It was intentional. You see on the replay, it was absolutely intentional for that to happen. Now, the issue that I've got with VAR is the fact that they're applying, bar a couple of rules, they're applying rules of over 100 years ago to something that's only just been brought in. Now, the World Cup showed the good sides and the bad sides of VAR. Some of the decisions were absolutely spot on, and some of them were absolutely terrible. But Marshy, I'll let you go roll on this, because this is another video in itself for me. But Marshy, your thoughts on VAR?
I think it's just I've said all along, John, to various people, that it's all well and good when it's going for you, but then it's the worst thing ever when you get like we got at Bramwell Lane, the last couple of minutes. We were no worse off than Sheffield United that night, and then obviously, as an end result, to lose the game was probably not right. But I think the whole experience that you get from it is sort of like, you can't even celebrate a goal now. It's like you're looking around checking to see whether or not they're going to check whether that's a goal, rightly or wrongly. And I think it's meant to probably in the finish take away, the fact of having a linesman's and these fourth officials and these, goal line sort of technology people that are doing that side of it, because you're just going to go straight to a monitor, like referees. I thought the idea of the VAR was to obviously look into situations that weren't obvious. Yeah. But again, maybe if it's used in the right context, just like anything, can it? If you're using it in the right manner, in the way in which it's meant to be there for, as such. But for VAR as a whole, the body behind that, whoever it is leading that setup itself, to come out and say from maybe the project restart, if you like, until the end of the season, or maybe it was just before that, I can't remember now, but VAR actually coming out saying that the three big decisions within that short period of time, they essentially made the wrong decisions. I think there's 3 penalties in 3 games. And there were 3 penalties, and they're not giving us penalties. And it's sort of like, you wouldn't want to be that person, would you? Obviously, sitting in that sort of place, in that VAR sort of studio or whatever, having to make that decision. And I think you've seen, like, from that restart, there's been a couple that, the actual referee has had to make them decisions. I think there was one in the Norwich-Burnley game, and I think it was a clear elbow. And, they're going to VAR, and, the amount of time it takes and the stoppages in the game, it's just, I think it's too much, like, and I think it is ruining the game that we all sort of know and love, really.
Bill, your thoughts, mate?
The problem, guys, is that the Premier League don't apply VAR properly. They don't do it in the way that UEFA do it with the Europa League and Champions League. They allow the referees to use the monitor, whereas the Premier League, they do Stockley Park, they overrule the referee's decisions. So when is it that refs actually go to the monitors? They don't, because they're advised to let Stockley Park, the VAR referees, that then make the decision, which is the wrong way to do it. And the problem with seeing with VAR is this handball rule. That's got actually nothing to do with VAR. That's to do with IFAB, the International Football Association Board. That rule was brought in at the same time. So VAR technically, given the right decisions, with Declan Rice, etc., they're technically giving it the right decision, but that rule is ridiculous. They're applying the rule properly, but that rule is stupid, and I think they're changing it from next season. And I think the whole point of them bringing that rule in, because I think it was Wolves, Man City, and I think it was Willy Bolly, I think it was one of the Wolves' defenders. He scored a handball goal, and obviously there was no VAR in that season. And I think that's why that rule from IFAB was brought in. So VAR were making technically the right decisions with that handball rule, but that rule is stupid, and I think that is being changed, as I say. And I think just the problem with VAR has been how long it takes. I thought it was meant to be nice and quick. Souček's goal against Chelsea, 3.5 minutes was it took?
Yeah, about that, mate. Yeah.
Obviously, it was brought, as Marshy rightly says, brought in for clear and obvious errors. If VAR taking 3.5 minutes to make a decision, it's obviously not clear and obvious. So I think the Premier League they're not applying it properly like UEFA do in their competitions.
I mean, Andy's making a good point. Sheffield United done exactly the same thing in another game too, JP. Yeah, they did. What was it? The Villa Sheffield United game, where you see 7 different angles, and you can quite clearly see the ball's gone over the line, and therefore that hadn't fully gone over the line, and therefore that point shouldn't have been awarded to Villa. Yeah, somehow they said, "Oh, we couldn't tell it." Even fucking Jamie Redknapp was saying, and they said, "Look, it's clear, it's on the screen. Why is that not being given?" It's just
that's essentially kept Villa up, isn't it?
Yeah.
As opposed to Bournemouth, because what? It's not working in that first half, or the whole guy's not active at that point or whatever, and that's the difference in it.
You'd think common sense would take over, wouldn't you? Really, like you think common sense has to take over something.
Yeah, they're not doing it. Yeah, they're
not, and that's with the offsides now. The fact that someone's toe is offside is ridiculous, but that's not VAR's fault. In the old days, it was benefit to the striker, clear and obvious daylight. If it was still that rule now, it wouldn't be a problem. But instead, they want to draw these silly lines, and the toe is offside, and the goal's ruled out. We go to football to watch goals. That's what football's all about. So that's why the benefit used to go to the striker. All of a sudden, that's all been ripped away. But that again is not VAR's fault.
But like Bill said as well, though, for how long it's taken. Look at, like you say, the Souček at home to Chelsea. Why is it taking so long? If it's like you say, it's the common knowledge to have. That every normal person can see it, and like JP said, that Redknapp's relating to clear and obvious ones. That why is it needed that we're having all this stoppage in play? I mean, are they adding it on or are they not? It's just getting in the way of a game where you're not getting. I don't think you're getting the full sort of football experience, if you like. I think you're just like you're sort of half worried to celebrate goals, and you're sort of looking around and thinking, is his flag up? The line over.
When he actually did score, he just stood there, didn't know whether to celebrate or not. I mean, that's
yeah. Where it should have been used was when Bruno Fernandes goes and chucks his head towards Mark Noble, and nothing happens. That's exactly where it should be used, because that's a very clear and obvious aggressive act towards another player, and he should have been sent off. And that should have taken all of 2 seconds to come up with that answer. It should have been, he's clearly thrown his head towards Mark Noble. That's because serious foul play. See you later, mate.
That's why. That's exactly why there's no consistency with it. Because that Norwich-Burnley game, the Norwich geezer got sent off. He stuck his elbow in after the ball had gone and after the foul had been committed. Just an extra little dig on him. And that's like you say, it should be used for that. They made a massive meal out of that, and he went over to the monitor, the ref. Obviously, whoever's looking at it in the Stockley Park or whatever's not sure, so he's going over to the monitor. And then you got the Fernandes and Noble thing. That again, if you're putting your head onto someone, You can't be doing that and getting away with that. So hopefully they'll use it in the right concepts for moving forward. Well, you'd like to think so.
And likewise, an argument for what was it? Our Chelsea game. I can't remember the geezer's name, but who pretty much had the intent of scraping his blades down the back of Bowen's leg.
Alonso
as well.
It was Alonso, wasn't it?
Same thing.
Yeah.
It's just it's not been. I've said it many times, and Rick was, if he's still in the chat, will be able to back me up, because we had a bit of a falling out live on a watch along. We had a conversation about it after, because of Michael Oliver's inaccuracies with decisions and stuff. But Lawrence asks a very, very good question. So, do you think VAR officials are more on the top club side, thinking of excuses not to give decisions? Mate, to be honest with you, as it came out recently, they are not going to say I made it. The referees and those are going to say it's jobs for the boys. They are going to say they're going to stick with the referees, regardless if the technology is proving the fact that it's a wrong decision or it's a right decision, or vice versa. They are saying no. That's why they came out and said, yeah, we got things wrong. But because there should be some sort of.
I totally agree with that.
I've always said this. There should be some form of challenges when
the referee should be coming out after the games. It's all well and good, interviewing players that might have scored an hat-trick or something, or these managers, for the reactionary things that they, like they do with Mourinho. Maybe he says something that's quite controversial. Why don't they get these referees out, like the Fernandez with the Noble one? And why don't you get him watching the monitor at the side of where you're carrying out the interview and say, look, well, how did you miss this? They're probably getting paid in excess of 100,000 a year, probably.
They should use them in the game, Marshy, as well, and they're not advised not to, which doesn't make a lot of sense.
No.
And one of the things that me and Rick talked about is the fact that referees can't pick and choose what rules they stick to. It's as simple as that. That's what they're doing, and the guys at Stockley Park are backing them up on that, because at the end of the day, like for example, Bill, what you were saying earlier about the handball rule, the way it's being changed is it's handball starts from where the stitching on the bloody sleeve is. I mean, that's ridiculous. I mean, how can you say how can you come up with that sort of idea rather than just saying, rather than just saying, yeah, right, we've got it wrong, we need to completely revise everything because a new form of technology is coming in. At the end of the day, they did the same thing when it was introduced with tennis. They did the same thing when they introduced with rugby. I'm not a big rugby fan. I don't know if you guys are. I don't recall seeing anything when video technology was being used in rugby, anything on any sports news whatsoever saying, yeah, they fucked this up, they fucked that up. It's just down to the fact that
use it really well. Yeah, as you say, JP, tennis and rugby, they use it brilliantly, but they've used it for a number of years, and if they called it brought out at the right time, I think the Premier League were too quick to rush and bring it in for the season. They should have.
However, another point with rugby is,
or let the UEFA competitions use it a bit more before and then we changed the way we use it, which is just I don't agree with.
Another point with rugby is their referees don't need to come out and explain their actions after the match, because they get to do it throughout the game. Everyone can have an earpiece and listen to exactly what the referee's saying the whole way through the match. So they don't even need the referees to explain it, because everyone can hear it as it's happening live.
Exactly, mate. But my issue with that is, as great as an idea as it is, let's face it, guys, we're almost into NFL territory with things as stands at the moment. I'd like it to be a little bit separate than that, because obviously the drinks breaks is gonna continue when the start of the season. There's 5 substitutions are still going to start next season as well, for that matter. It's just I don't want to see I don't want football to become a sport of 4 quarters.
There won't be no good some more as well. Using 5 substitutes, you barely knows how to use 1 or 2, does he? So that's as for the drinks breaks, don't even get me started on that. I think it's pathetic. You're talking about professional footballers. Why do they need a drinks break after mid-20s, 22, 23 minutes, whatever it is?
Post and stuff, Marshy. That's why they call it.
Yeah, you ain't done piss all to warrant drinking or whatever. Like, you should be ready to rock and roll. Like, I just don't.
And also the drinks breaks were brought in because of they were planning on it's supposed to be like 29, 30 odd degrees that they'll be playing in. But one of the like what, for example, when we played Newcastle, it was pissing it down. And it wasn't all that warm up there either, for that matter. It's only what 20, 18, 19 degrees when we played it. There was no need to have it.
It's warm for them now, mate.
Well, quite, yeah, fair point, mate. But it's just kind of like it evolved very, very quickly into a tactical break. And which again is an NFL thing, and it's just I don't see the logic to do it. When we play the World Cup 2 years time, yeah, fine. Or if it is going to be 2022, because it's going to be fucking hot over there, you're going to need the water breaks in that, but not in the Premier League, especially when we're not seeing the record temperatures we saw this time last year either, for that matter.
Just stick to football as we know it, really. Just don't keep bringing in these changes and making things longer. More stoppages, breaks in play, and just let the game flow. It's bad enough.
Again, mate, it's someone who's paid probably a lot of money to come up with these ideas. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you watch Premier League years and you watch, Premier League before the 2000s. Mate, what a game it was.
Massive.
And
massive.
We are turning football into something that is a bit of a corporate machine, a bit of a brand, and it's this and that. But mate, it's ruining it for me, and it's a shame, because I do watch them Premier League years, and I think that was how football should be. You're allowed to challenge, you're allowed to make a tackle, you're allowed to. The game's flowing, the atmosphere is electric. It's it's a non-stop passion and atmosphere for that whole thing. This at the moment, the water break, it's not the end of the world. You're only sitting at home watching it on telly anyway. But if you're in that ground, there can be nothing, mate. That would be so frustrating. Other than, I suppose, we can all have a water break in it downstairs and have a beer ourselves, which ain't a bad idea when you're watching West Ham. It might make us a bit easier to watch. But you're right, Marshy, and that is the thing, isn't it, mate? At the end of the day, we all love football as it is. So why is there someone being paid, probably hundreds of £1,000s a year to come up with these ideas that we don't want?
No.
I mean, as I say, it just didn't need to be applied for every single game. If the temperatures aren't hot enough, then you literally just don't need to apply it. I mean, Kieran's made out quite a good point. This is half the problem. Our referees are too long in the tooth to adapt to VAR, and Kieran has always been a little bit cheeky. So the jacuzzi on the sideline might be good, mate. If you want to tweet the FIFA and everything about that, go for it, sunshine. But you ain't going to get very far. Women's football might adopt that slightly better, but nah, that's the last thing we want to see. And Andy, I'm not even putting that up. Don't even think about it, son. But yeah, at the end of the day, once after the lockdown, I'm very, very happy to say West Ham proved me wrong. Very, very happy. Because during the lockdown, Marshy and I, we had a few conversations about it, and I said it on the previews as well, that I couldn't see more than 9 points from those remaining 9 games that we had. West Ham picked up 10. Happy with that. Very, very happy with that. But after the first couple of games, I'm not afraid to admit that. Again, I got it wrong, because I said I said to Nicky on West Ham Fan TV, if we don't see fight, we're down. Because we weren't seeing fight in those games. We were seeing parts of it. For example, against Wolves, for example, I thought we had a very, very good first half, buckled second half, as typical West Ham is. Against Spurs, I thought we were playing better, but we still buckled. From my point of view, guys, I literally don't know what your interpretations of the Spurs game was. But for me personally, I think the reason why we conceded those 2 goals was, one, refereeing decision, and the second one, because Mikey was knackered and gave the ball away, which led to that counter attack. I mean, unless you guys have got a different opinion on that, I honestly think that's what that was. The problem was the fact there was people running themselves into the ground too quickly for that.
I don't think we stay switched on enough either. I think when we want to sort of up the tempo and get out of the blocks, and large spells, obviously before conceding the first goal in that Tottenham game, we were pound for pound as good as them. And clearly the game plan was to stay in the game as long as possible. which for them sort of games you need to. They're not games you want to lose. You don't take it lightly when we do lose. Apparently, it's our cup final, wherever that seems to come from. I don't know, but obviously that it's we need to. We know how good we can be, and we've proven that. Obviously, since Project Restart, we know we've got the mentality. We know we've got the players there. Moyes arguably might not be the right man, but at the moment, like I say, he's got them the points. They've obviously prepared in the right way. So, it's right and then wrongs. I'd just like to see us, how well that we would do if we stay switched on for sort of 92, 3 minutes.
Bill, Frankie, any thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, I thought the Wolves game, I didn't really see a lot of positives. And that's when I started to fear, would we get enough points to stay up? And then the Spurs game, for their first half we competed, second half, I think players got tired, and but we didn't really. But in both those games, I didn't think we created enough chances to score goals. And I thought, well, we're not going to keep many clean sheets. I thought, well, we need to start creating more chances. And the tactics being played, I didn't really agree with. And I thought, well, after those two games, no points. I thought it would be a case where we'd have to rely on other teams to drop points. And then that did happen, thankfully. And obviously, we picked up results after that. But first two games, I struggled to see many positives, really.
Frankie, your thoughts?
I don't think we was good enough against Tottenham and Wolves. I don't think there was enough running. I don't think there was enough effort. I don't think there was enough commitment or desire. And I don't think we deserved anything out of the two games. And I started to get very, very worried. And I couldn't see where we was going to score a goal, let alone where we was going to pick up another win. And it's ended up costing me someone over on the channel that I sit on and talk to people through. Someone said that we'd get 9 points. I said there's absolutely no way, and I bet him Declan Rice's boots, and that's cost me now. I've got to send them to him. But I couldn't see us getting 9 points. I couldn't. I honestly didn't think we'd get another win. I couldn't see where it was going to come from. And it was really, really worrying. And I thought at that point, we're down here because we don't look like we want to stay in the Premier League, and we haven't got enough people pulling their weight. So, after those two games, I was panicking.
For me, I know we kind of glossed over it about the January transfer window, so we'll talk about it now. For me, I do honestly think one of the reasons why, well, two of the reasons I should say, why we were able to, all of a sudden, we were able to switch it on against Chelsea were the January signings. Socios and Bowen. They completely revamped the side, as far as I'm concerned. In the Bowen's home debut against Southampton was one of the best I've seen for a long, long time. Socios has gone on to prove himself massively. Technically, you could say that between Socios and Antonio were the saviour of the restart. Those two. Because if we hadn't have brought in those two, I honestly think we would have been down. I really, really do, because that we hardly had any work effort at all. Frankie, as you're saying, we hardly had any work effort from the core of players that normally should be doing. I mean, okay, we know Rice has been fantastic all season, and quite rightly so. He's picked up Hammer of the Year. Noble's had a bit of a shaky one, as he always has, but he was always putting the work in. Snodgrass, I felt sorry for him with picking up that injury, causing him to be out for the rest of the season. But I was just so thankful, because I honestly think if we hadn't signed those two and we'd brought in some other little doldrums that we normally do on a January transfer window, that
couple of David Moyes signings, though, boys.
Well, this is the thing, mate. As we talked about when Socios came in, mate, I'm not convinced he's a Moyes target. I'm not convinced. It's too quick. He came in relatively early in the January transfer window.
And then they were trying to cover it, weren't they? Saying about the comparisons with Fellaini, when they signed him at Everton.
Yeah, I mean, I for me, Socios the midfield dynamo that we've needed since we got rid of Obiang and Kouati, those two. But Bowen for me is Moyes all over. Very, very good player, but Souček just had a bit more of a spice to his game that kind of gave me more of a sort of a Pellegrini. He might have been a Pellegrini target, and they followed through with it. It could have been a David the Sullivan boys' target, and they followed through to it. But it just doesn't. It doesn't sit with me as a Moyes signing. He really doesn't. I mean, I don't know what you guys are thinking about it for me, but he doesn't.
Whoever scouted him, wherever, I think they deserve a huge amount of credit because, as you say, JP, without him and Bowen, I think would have been down. And he's been brilliant. Obviously, not only defensively, but in an attacking sense with the goals he's got as well. So, an all-round midfielder, which, as you say, we haven't had for a while. So he's been, and I'm glad he's signed permanently. So, and it's allowed Declan Rice to show his passing ability, and he's obviously got that goal against Watford as well. It shows that he can get forward because we had Sanchez trying to help our defence, and that was a waste of time. So Souček's coming to help Rice develop his attacking game, which he's always had in his locker ability-wise, but he wasn't allowed to show because of the lack of defensive structure behind him.
Yeah, and this is the thing, as Kent Hammers is quite well. Hang on, where are we? Where's the mouse gone? There we go. It's quite timely said. And Noggy coming back, he was fantastic once he came back. Yeah, sorry guys. Yeah, he was absolutely superb. It was for me, Ogbonna was my hammer of the season. Hammer of the season, 100%. And it was lovely to see that Rice said, for me, Ogbonna is the hammer of the season for him, because it just shows how much he's loved within the side, and how switched on Rice knows about everybody's opinion on Ogbonna as well, for that matter. But sorry, guys, this is frozen for a second. Then, a lot of people have started. I've noticed recently. Have said because the amount of mistakes that Fabianski has been making over the last few games prior to the end of the season, people are saying we should start selling him. Now, guys, I don't know about you, but I don't agree with that at all. What are your thoughts on that?
I'm the same as you, JP. I mean, he's made a couple of mistakes, but you think how brilliant he's been since he joined the club. I think he deserves another season. I think, but it's not just, obviously, I know he's made a couple of mistakes, but even just the basics, like his catching, his communication, stuff like that goes unnoticed. So, and I feel a lot safer with him in goal than obviously Roberto or Randolph, for example. So I think there's other areas of our team that need improvement. Like we've touched on earlier, the fullbacks, centre midfield, a couple of number 9s. There's more important squad positions that we need to focus on rather than the goalkeeper situation. In time, we do, because Fabianski is getting a bit old. Is Nathan Trott going to take over? Are we going to need to buy another keeper because Randolph isn't a number 1? He proved that in his first spell with us. So in time, we need to look at the goalkeeper situation, but certainly not at the moment.
I don't love us not having a solid backup goalkeeper. I think competition for goalkeepers is really important. And I think the goalkeeper should always be kept on his toes, thinking, if I'm not on point this game, then there's a very good chance that the guy who's sitting on the bench will play the following game. I think at the moment, Fabianski don't have that worry, because I think Randolph was never really brought in to properly challenge him. I think it was just in case we have another injury, because Martin we're not 100% confident in. So, I think the goalkeeper should always be looking over their shoulder, thinking, if I don't perform, then I will be out of the team. And we haven't got that at the moment.
It's like essentially, isn't it, that he can get away with a couple of mistakes. You know what I mean, Lucas? I think at the moment, because like you say, he hasn't got that situation of a manager maybe being a bit ruthless, and that was fair play to Pellegrini. That's one thing I will say with him. If you weren't pulling your weight in his eyes, then you would be dropped the next game, regardless of even maybe getting a result. Like, if you were poor, you weren't starting the next game. A bit of ruthless there, like you say, a bit of healthy competition is good for Fabianski. But I think with him, I think the positives massively outweigh the negative. I think that's a keeper that we've been looking for a while, for still at 7 million as well when Swansea went down. Yeah, he's worth triple that easy, but if not more in the current climate of transfer windows. So yeah, like you say, maybe he's getting on a little bit, so they should be looking at that. But I agree with Bill. I think we need to be looking at a definite striker for one. Haller, I think, could be an influential part of the team next season if they play to their strengths, which again is something that I don't believe we've ever done. You know, to have Antonio up there, you know, scoring the goals that, for want of a better word, have kept us in this division. But you know, you need somebody that's a out-and-out striker that's going to be able to perform on the level more consistently and not have the worry with Antonio maybe that he's going to pull up with an hamstring or a calf issue or you know, like he's been known to be doing. I think, like I say, I think it'd be interesting going into this window. You know, are we actually going to bring anyone in?
Well, you see, I've got to disagree with Bill slightly, mate. You're a good mate of mine, but if you think Fabianski's old, mate, then that makes me fucking ancient because he's younger than me. So we're going to fall out on that bit.
No, I
know what you mean, mate.
He's not chicken, so if he's got a couple more years season at top level football.
No, I know what you mean, mate. I know what you meant, mate. Yeah, don't worry, you're safe for the minute. But Ant-Man's got a very, very good point. Said we shouldn't sell Fabianski because without him, I don't think we would have stayed up. Kent Hammers is saying Fabianski needs to stay. When a keeper makes the odd mistake, it's highlighted more because they're on their own. But the man has dug us out of so many holes. I'd go for Butland in the summer if we had pounds. But yeah, I would agree. Going back to Frank, what you're saying about competition for places, do you kind of think that's been Creswell and Fredericks' problems this season because nobody's really pushing to replace them up until Ben Johnson got fit?
Fredericks I just don't think's good enough anyway. When we purchased him, all the Fulham fans were saying, look, he should be an Olympic runner because, wow, can he run? But footballing ability isn't really that fantastic. And his ability isn't that great. And Cresswell, I don't know, Cresswell's been on the decline for a while now. You know, he's been a good, solid servant to us. What gets me with Cresswell is he's never been the best left back in the world, but he used to deliver a mean ball. Like his set pieces used to be great, and if he ever got a chance to cross the ball, he'd whip a ball in, and it really creates some nice balls for our forwards to get onto. And even now, you see him try and cross the ball, and I just can't remember the last time he whipped a good ball into the box. So I don't know whether it's competition or whether it's just
Frankie, I don't think that injury helped him.
No, it didn't, and he's looked so nervous of going into tackle since that injury. He looks scared, petrified. He looks, and you just see him, and you see a challenge coming towards him, and he's like a rabbit in a headlight. So, no, I agree with that. The injury hasn't helped him one little bit, but you know that technique shouldn't ever really disappear. It should still be there. So, I don't know what's gone on there, but you know, again, we go back to apparently we had two quality players in every single position. There should have been competition for everyone, but obviously there just wasn't, and it's frustrating. Even if we didn't have out and out Premier League players in those positions, you would want to see those youngsters really battling to try and, like, all of a sudden Johnson's come out of nowhere and he's in the side. Well, he should have been in and around that bench a long time ago. You know, he should have been the person who was challenging for Fredericks' place. So you know.
Similar to Ngakia as well before all that speculation, weren't it? Like when he was up at Liverpool, you know, we all played very well. And you're sort of thinking, like, you know, for a young kid to come on at that stage in that sort of bigger game, and you know, Liverpool going on to win it and sort of clearly the strongest side this year. He was coming on leaps and bounds, and like you say, these players really should have been, like Frank said, they should have really been around the team a lot sooner. Sort of like I say, it begs the question as to why they maybe wasn't, but. Fair play to Ben Johnson. I think he's doing everything right to be able to utilise him left back and right back. I think if they can find his stronger position, then that's clearly one player that we have got that's going to give them the sort of the competition. I think especially with Cresswell, I think his positional sense is all over the gaff. I think when we're defending, luckily we have Bowen that is prepared to actually do a bit when we're backs to the wall, and you know when the opposition are coming forward, if you like, we have that ability with him to do that sort of covers Cresswell in a sense. And I think whereby some of these games we're playing, there might be a worse player than the two fullbacks, which is surprising some of the time because largely in this restart, they have been the two players looked at a lot and come under a lot of fire, haven't they? But, you know, we, like you say, I agree with Frank, we need to have that competition. Otherwise, you know, they're going to think that they can play how they want to play because they're going to walk into the team, the next game. And that's not really like the right way to be going about it, is it?
No, and I don't think our wide players have helped the fullbacks. It's been a lot of chopping and changing, and I think Fornals has been put on the left quite a lot, and Cresswell almost looks in front of him and doesn't really know where Fornals is, and Fornals ain't a naturally left-sided player, and I think that doesn't help Cresswell. I think Fredericks has actually...
Lanzini's not.
No, Lanzini's not. 100%. Absolutely, and I think that's not helped them one little bit. And I think on the right, since Bowen's come in, while Fredericks isn't a brilliant player, I think he certainly looked a lot better when Bowen's been in front of him, because Bowen does track and Bowen does help him out. So he doesn't look as bad as when Yarmolenko was on the right, for example, and doesn't track back. So I don't think the fullbacks have been helped with our lack of naturally wide players.
I mean, apart from the fact of that, I can't remember what home game was now, but that little 1-2 with Anderson and Masuaku, proved, is the argument to what you're saying there, Frankie. But you're absolutely spot on there, mate. Because at the end of the day, there hasn't been a lot of teamwork going on in positions. I mean, after the restart, for example, you notice that the same 2 or 3 players will be passing to each other, no matter where they were in the pitch, because they were like, for example, Noble would pass to Rice, and then Rice would pass to Fredericks, and then Fredericks would pass back to Rice, and all that sort of stuff. So they'd slowly push up that way, because there were certain groups, as Marshy and I talked about as well. There are certain little groups within the side that only will trust certain players, and that has been half of our problem. But where is the message? Kent says Johnson's been injured, Frankie. That's why if Jeremy hadn't gone, Fredericks would have definitely been gone in the summer, in his opinion. You're absolutely right there, Kent, mate. He did have a long-term injury. Same thing with Zonde Silva as well, for that matter. One thing I was very surprised is we never really got to see him after the restart. But just going back to the whole Cresswell thing. I mean, that injury 100% didn't help. I mean, I think the season when he played after coming back from that injury, I think he made like 1 tackle every 2 or 3 games. He was scared. Same thing with Lanzini. When after that injury that he's had, he's not looked the same player since. It's the psychological side of things. I mean, no player is 100% fit at the best of times anyway. But at the same point, I do personally think that the only reason why Frederick seemed to up his game a little bit over the restart was because Ngaki was threatening, was because Johnson was threatening for that position, and likewise now we're having we had Johnson over on the left back position for the last game of the season. That gives, I'm hoping that we will see a bit of a resurgence in Cresswell from it at the same point, because again we need to have a bit more competition in places. And then
I think the thing is as well, though, like looking at the Fredericks Cresswell thing. I mean, if Fredericks is to go, you're not really essentially putting all the weight on Johnson. You're looking at another body coming in that may even come straight in, and then Johnson be just a reserve in waiting for an injury or a red card or something like that. I don't think they're going to get rid of Fredericks on the basis that Johnson will automatically step up. I think he will be thereabouts. So I definitely think he'll be in contention. But I mean, say they go for like Matty Cash at Forest. Don't know nothing about the kid, but I mean, if that's someone that they're going to sign, then it's all integrating and getting used to things. It's going to be I just think it's going to be interesting. I think if we do sign anybody, I think like we mentioned at the start, there's so many deadwood players. I mean, for me, Anderson, Lanzini, Yarmolenko, Balbuena, I'd have no hesitancy in getting rid of any of them four, without a question. I think it needs to be better. I think we need to be better in that sense, and I think we also need to be fitter, because I don't think we've been fit enough for seasons now.
No, but that kind of comes on to, I mean, obviously, we stayed up and everything, so that kind of comes on to the other part that I want to talk about, guys. Marshall, we'll come to you first, because you basically just kind of intimated it on there. You've obviously mentioned the players that you want to see gone. Fine. Who are, other than the obvious one, i.e. Declan, who else do you think deserves to stay for next season?
I I think deserving to stay. I think you're looking at the likes of Ogbonna, Snodgrass. I think even Diop. I know there was speculation building with Diop before, but he seems to have something going there. That solidarity that he shows with Ogbonna. I think that partnership is going to be, again, going into next season, going to be massively important. I think Haller deserves to stay. I know there's been links with Monaco maybe, and maybe a couple of others, various reports going along, but I think you need to, with someone like him, you've got a target man there. Like, you've got someone that you're looking for maybe when you're clearing the lines, and maybe a route one if you like. But then you want players off of him as well. So it's I think Diop Ogbonna deserve to stay. As I say, with Rice, I sincerely hope that he will stay. But he's a Chelsea boy at the end of the day, and being best mates with Mount as well, I think there's going to be bits in there that are going to sort of take him to Chelsea a little bit more than what he would to stay. But I tend to agree with various people that I've read on the Twitter and the social media and some of the West Ham forums, whereby, let him have a holiday, maybe 2 or 3 weeks now, come back and maybe get him sat down and say, listen, we're prepared to build the team around you. We would even give you the captaincy. I'm sure Noble wouldn't begrudge that, so to speak, in order to keep him and base the team around him, and maybe he can attract some other bodies into the club and sort of work well and get relationships going with them. So, I hope he would stay as well. But I think we have got to, we're no strangers to the fact that, when players are at the top of their game at a club like West Ham, and they need to push on. And, I don't think anyone in their right mind would stand in his way. Being a footballer, you want to be successful. And unfortunately, you're not going to do that playing for West Ham. But, fair play to him. As I say, would you stand in his way? Of course you wouldn't. You want to see him be successful. And, you want to see him improve areas of his game while he's still young and playing around better players. You're going to be able to, shine even more and improve your game. I think for me, it's more interesting to see who we're going to bring in as opposed to, I think going out, I think are the obvious ones. And, if it is to be a case that, that the money that we sort of accrue, if you like, with them players going, I think it'd be interesting to see where that's going to go in order to, like Frank said, get some more bodies in the team that are going to compete for places.
I mean, just coming back to Matty Cash, Kent saying Matty Cash is the man. He can cover 4 positions, but it's mainly a right back. I'm afraid he's not, mate. He's actually a right winger. He's been played as right back. He's been played out of position, but his natural position is right wing. From what I understand, we did bid for him in January before we put the bid in for Bowen. So apparently that was the target for a little while, and then I say the Bowen deal happened a little bit later. But he's a very, very good player, Matty Cash, and but Marshy, one of the great things I've seen that Sky Sports were talking about is the fact that Moyes has come out and saying something I knew he was going to say anyway, by saying that he wants to build the squad next season around the likes of Declan Rice and Grady Diangana. Exactly as I've been saying since January, that we're going to be seeing a much younger side next season, and I'll be very, very happy with that. I mean, it is quite mouth-watering to think of Diangana out on the left and Bowen out on the right with Antonio and Allaire up front together. I think that will be a very, very lethal combination up there. I
do tend to agree, John, but I think partially you need that bit of experience as well in order to sort of usher the younger players improve in areas, like in training sessions, and you might learn different sort of little parts of an experienced player's game, which I think is essential, that you still need a Noble around the team. All right, he's getting there, all this Lexicon business, and I think he actually was one of our better players since the project restart. And I think, the fact that he got 90 minutes at Old Trafford, as I said, I said to the West Ham TV boys, I thought he was outstanding. Yeah. And you won't find a bigger critic on Noble than me. And I hold my hands up to that. Like I did before now, I'm not having him at the moment, and my personal opinion. And I've made it well documented that if he does come good, and he might be playing out of position, he might be playing in a 10 role. And if Lanzini is to go, which is largely speculated, he might even be one of the first ones out the door. Then maybe that might give an opportunity for Fornells to sit in there. But at the moment, I'm not having him. But like you said, John, with things, I'm more than happy to hold my hands up and say I've been proven wrong. And hopefully that is the case, because you only want the best for the players that play for this club that we want to see do well.
Absolutely. I mean, for me personally, as I said, Fornells is a number 10. Lanzini is a number 10. Anderson is a number 10. You can't. Fornells is. I don't want to be critical about Fornells, because I've said all along that you need to give him a full season to before you're judging. But you know, he has got massively better since we played since we were at the Stamford Bridge. That was his standout game. It was all of a sudden it's like a light switch had gone on and he was superb. But you know, again with the same thing with Allaire for that matter, you know, he was brought in from a side that were playing him in a front three, and for the majority of the last 2 seasons we played him up on his own. That's why he's not getting the service and the goals that we were all expecting him to do. I don't think that 45 million was too much of his quality, as in terms of too much of a price tag. But at the same point, if you're not going to be using a player or anybody in that matter, using somebody's strengths to their advantage, you're gonna see under 10 goals this season.
What price tag would we put on sort of someone like Rice in the current, in the current state?
That's a very good question. For me, I can't think of one high enough, quite frankly.
Because I know the different positions, isn't they? But you're looking at Harry Maguire for 85 million. I mean, I'm waiting for someone to explain to me, what exactly he's done to warrant 85 million. I think it's just a going rate of these transfers now. But I mean, I said if West Ham are to sell him, which I think heart of hearts you don't want to believe it's true, but I think the reality is, and the harsh reality, if you want, is that he is going to go. And I just hope and pray that West Ham are going to be in that position to be able to turn around and just hold out, which I believe they will do for the most expensive amount they can. I mean, it's got to be a minimum 70 million.
I mean, Gary's saying 80 million for him. Rick's saying 90 million. Kieran's being cheeky by saying 45. And Andy's saying wouldn't take anything less than 80 to 100 million cash, nothing else. And yeah,
but generally, what do we reckon on Rice? What price would you put against him?
Take 80.
Yeah, 80 to 100. Yeah.
I think we'd take 80, but sorry, Bill, go on, mate.
No, just saying what I mean, Gary in the comments 80 to 100. I wouldn't say less than 80.
I mean,
I just think it's typical West Ham, right? Every time we've got a really young prospect, English, that should be worth money, we always end up in a position where we sell them for far, far too cheap and way less than they should be. And in the current climate, Declan Rice, 80 million, our board will grab 80 million like you wouldn't believe if that bid comes in. However, you go a year back before all this drama happened with COVID, the economy and everything else, he is 120 million all day long. So we've shaved 40 million pound off his price tag just because of the current climate. And it's just typical West Ham.
All players are going to have their prices reduced. That's half the problem. But at the same point, if Harry Maguire can go for the price that he did, then there's no reason why if we were going to sell Rice, that we do it as Andy is saying. You guys are saying between 80 and 100 million. He's much better player than Harry Maguire.
But that's the other thing as well. Are you relating to Rice as a centre half, as his preference position, or are you relating him? Because at the end of the day, all right, say he goes to Chelsea, for argument's sake, more than likely probably will. And fair play to the geezer. He's a great footballer, and going forward, I hope he's successful. But all right, Kante may be leaving. Is Kovacic on a loan, I think, from Real Madrid? Ruben Loftus-Cheek is in there. So I mean, it'd be interesting if it is to be the case, and like Frank said, the bid comes in, and they're going to bite your arm off for 80 million, 75, whatever, 70 even. Is he going to play? Where's he going to sort of essentially fit in? I mean, if they didn't have a position readily for him, then there wouldn't be all this interest from Chelsea, would there? I mean, there isn't anybody else that seems to be sort of stepping forward. So I think it'll be interesting to see, because obviously relating Rice to Maguire is difficult if you're talking about Rice as a centre midfielder or defensive centre midfielder.
The fact for me, mate, the reason I'm saying it from both sides, the fact that he's a natural defender, and the fact that he can play in more than one position. He's 21 years old. His price tag is huge as far as I'm concerned. He's a talented boy. You can see he's getting better with every other game. It's talent plus his versatility. For me, that's it. I mean, what can Harry Maguire do apart from header a ball into the back of the net? Not a lot, really. To be fair, not don't get me wrong. He's had a great campaign with England a couple of years ago, and he played very well for Leicester. And obviously, the reason I've said it many times before, the same reason why Van Dijk left Southampton for 75 million, the same reason why Harry Maguire left for 80 million from Leicester, is down to the fact that these are hands-off price tags. If you're that stupid to pay that amount of money, then you're welcome to it.
I think what West Ham are essentially trying to do as well is actually price him out of a move.
Yeah.
Because Chelsea are only going to go so far. Do you know what I mean? I think the Chelsea would probably get to a level and think, do you know what? Bollocks to it. Like we're going to go 70 or we're not going to go above 80 as a last resort. And hopefully, if we are to keep him, then I think that's going to be the way we're going to do it. But who do you reckon's going to who would you have out the team, and then who would you sort of sign as well?
For me, the ones that definitely leaving are Roberto, Anderson. I've given up on the bloke. I really have. I've tried to fight his corner for as long as possible. Masuaku goes for me. Cresswell goes for me. As much as I admire him, like you're saying, Frankie, he's been a long-term servant with us, but he's just not good enough for us anymore, unfortunately. Also, I say Snodgrass stays. For me, I think Balbuena's off as far as I'm concerned. Fredericks possibly. I wouldn't be disappointed if we did sell him, but I wouldn't be disappointed if he stayed at the same point, because it's always been a weak position for us. If Johnson can continue on the form that we're all hoping he's going to do, and we bring in a second right back, then yeah, Fredericks is gone as far as I'm concerned. Allaire, I want to see stay, because we haven't used him properly, as I said earlier. We need to give him another fair shout. Yarmolenko goes because as good as a player he is, it's his injury record and his wages and his age, for that matter. He needs to jog on as quickly as possible. Again, as a player that I really like, but why would you want to have somebody on the bench that's picking up 100 grand a week?
Yeah.
It's the business model coming into brain.
Same as Wilshere, isn't it?
Wilshere as well. Yeah, another one.
It's essential to slash the wage bill, I think, as well. But I think with the board, it seems to be that it's not the transfer fee, it's the wages. But then you could argue that because you've got Javier Hernandez, arguably, who I didn't rate overly. All right, he's a danger in the 6-yard box, nothing else for me. That's my personal thing. But 130, the highest paid player at the club at the time. So, it's what you sort of believe as well. I think it's just going to be interesting who we seem to, because, obviously it's going into the Championship, which is that a way that we would want to be going? I don't know. But then again, would we get anyone within this league?
What I like, guys, when Moyes come back, his first press conference, where he mentioned about the RB Leipzig model. And I think that's such a much better policy to do rather than the ridiculous, buying over the hill players and last payday, etc. I think that's such a much better way of doing it. And the way we signed, obviously, Bowen and Souček fit into that because of their age, and they've got their prime ahead of them rather than past their prime. And if we can buy young, talented, hungry players from the Championship, I'd rather do that rather than take punts on foreign players, which we have done. Some which will come off, some obviously haven't. And generally their wages will be lower than some of the foreign stars from La Liga or Serie A, etc.
As much as I agree with you, Bill, that's years off, mate. That is absolutely years off. The problem is because the Leipzig model have got more scouts than Southampton.
But in terms of buying a younger profile of players, which Moyes done already with Bowen and Souček, I'd rather do that with Eze, for example, Max Aaron, Matty Cash, as Marshy said. I'm happy to be linked with those players than some random players in the foreign leagues who we've seen some can adapt and some can't. I'd rather take a punt on Championship players, which we have with Bowen. He suddenly can step up. Cresswell did well when we signed him from Ipswich. Antonio we bought from Notts Forest. So we have a good legacy of buying Championship players who can step up.
What about that Brentford striker? Is it Benrahma or Berahino, whatever his name is?
Ollie Watkins as well.
Watkins, yeah. But sorry, guys, to piss on your parade here, but Brentford have just made the playoff final. There's a few, as Kent Hammers saying, there's a few that I like from their club. Agreed, mate.
I was going to say, there was 1-0 down, weren't they, to Swansea?
Yeah, and but this is the problem. If now, I'm hoping it's going to be an all London derby for the playoff. It's certainly looking that way at the minute.
I think Fulham will be back.
Yeah, this is the thing. If Brentford come through, there's no way in hell we're getting those players that people want from Brentford. It's not going to happen.
No, they'll want to stay if they do get promoted. They'll want to stay our first season, won't they, and see what happens. I think they'd probably owe it to them, in fairness.
Yeah, I've got no issue with, like you're saying, Marshy, with us going for teams and players in the Championship, because there is untapped talent there. We said that for donkey's years. The only problem is the fact that I just can't see doing anything properly in the transfer window because of the pandemic. I mean, we don't even know how much the Premier League are going to be paying out for the TV deals and everything yet. So that's going to have a massive. I mean, obviously it's meant to be like 30 or 40 million more than clubs got last season, but they've had to get rid of a lot of staff. It was like 20 or 30 million pound pay cuts that people they had to make and stuff. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to next season. As stupid as I am looking forward to going through this heartache once again. I mean, let's face it, guys. It starts off in pretty much 6 weeks from now. But before we get on to that, I want to get your thoughts, guys, on the kits for next season. Now, obviously, the home kit and the away kit have been released, and the home kit was used for the Villa game, and if I remember correctly, I think we're seeing the third kit for next week or maybe the week after. But guys, I just want to know your thoughts on the home and away strips. Are you buying them, or have you bought them?
I'll probably buy the home one. I like the home one. And away one looks decent. Yeah, but I'll probably buy the home one for next season.
Frankie,
I don't buy football shirts, mate. So I buy a retro something or other, or I buy but I just don't. I don't wear the strip. And to be honest, it's probably one that I would have bought, because I did buy the last season at Upton Park. I did buy that because, mate, I don't wear it, but it sits in the wardrobe, and it's probably one that I would have bought. But I just really don't like either of the home or the away designs. I think it was a complete lack of imagination, and that's really what it boils down to, a lack of imagination. And it doesn't strike me that someone who understands West Ham's history put them together.
Absolutely agreed. Before I put my 2 cents in it, Marshy?
As I said to you earlier, John, we sort of touched on it, didn't we, briefly on the phone. The home one, I wasn't so sure of at the start, when they first brought it out, and the official sort of launched, if you like. But as I said, I think seeing it in the Villa game, I thought, yeah, that's a smart shirt. As I said to you, I bought the home one without the sponsor as well, which looks maybe get away with more of a training sort of option, if you like. I sort of prefer them without the Betway on. But like Frank, with the last season at the bowling, it's sort of special. It has a meaning behind it. And this obviously for the 125-year anniversary. Not that I'll wear it, because like Frank, I agree, I don't wear the shirts either. Maybe just lounging around and chilling, and I'm more for the training gear that I would normally wear, sort of knocking about. But it will sit in the wardrobe. But yeah, as for the away one, I don't really know, as I said to you earlier. Echo it again. I don't know what they've done with that one. I know what they've done, but it's not for me, the away one.
And for me, I can't stand them. I have been very, very vocal about it. I was saying to AJ, which is a bit of a shame he couldn't join us to back me up on this, but I said it when the home kit was released, that it's, Frankie, you're absolutely right, mate. It is a lack of imagination. For me, it looks like an Umbro training vest with blue sleeves stitched to it. I don't like it. It looked better as Marshy was just saying, it looked better when you saw the players actually playing in it. Doesn't look as bad on camera, but no way. And the away strip I absolutely hate for exactly the same reasons why Andy says that, you know, the away strip is awful. The strips are too far apart. They're too high for my liking. I think they're too thick as well for that matter. It's again, without the sponsorship, the away strip looks better.
I think the fact that they've put the Betway in the middle of it too as well, haven't they?
Yeah, so like, even your phone doesn't want to listen to you.
The phone don't agree either, does it? It don't normally. Surprised it's working this long, to be honest. But yeah.
But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to seeing the third strip because you can't get black and gold wrong. You just can't. I mean, there's nothing. All it's going to be is just going to be plain. It's going to be simple. It's just going to have gold and black, and that's it. I'm looking forward to seeing it. I really do hope that it is going to be nice because I want to get something for the anniversary strips. But I'm not buying the home and I'm not buying the away. It's just absolutely not going to happen. But as Gary, as you're saying there, mate, yeah, and want to bet them, you can't get it wrong. It is West Ham after all. But from what it's been based on, apparently, I mean, obviously, X and Dave are doing their podcast tonight, so we'll be able to find out a bit more information about it, I'm guessing. But it's supposed to be modelled on the Juventus strip, which I think looks absolutely smart as hell. But yeah, it just sums up West Ham for me. 125 years. Technically, it's 120 because it's 125 years of Thames Ironworks, but yeah, it just sums up how we do everything at West Ham. It's just not enough effort, rushed about, and left it to the last minute. Now obviously we need to talk about the elephant that's been in the room for the last few days of people is next season, and more specifically, season tickets. Now, I know we've all waxed lyrical about it and had our little bursts about it in various guises. I was absolutely fuming when the original email email and options came out. For those that aren't aware of it, there are now 3 options. There were only 2, and I'll read out what the options in there. So option 1, renew now to enter into an automatic ballot for matches with social distancing in place. In the event of matches with social distancing in place and a restricted number of supporters present, we will adopt an automatic ballot system. We will communicate further details regarding how the ballot system will work once more details are known. However, an automatic ballot system will ensure season ticket holders can attend an equal number of matches. And if you are not selected in the ballot, you will be automatically refunded. If you missed out in the previous ballot, you will be prioritized for an upcoming match. We will also work to ensure that families and groups of supporters who attend together can do so through the ballot process in line with social distancing, and more information on this will be shared in due course. For every match we are unable to welcome you to the London Stadium for the 2021 season during COVID-19 social distancing measures, we will automatically refund the pro rata value of the match to the pay holder's card or account within 30 days of the fixture taking place. Now, I have a bit of umbrage with this because the other clubs that are doing it within 15 days. But also, this will give season ticket holders the best chance to be one of the first fans to cheer on the team at London Stadium again when supporters are permitted to attend. Supporters who are shielding or are personal assistants can purchase their seat and complete a medical exemption form for games on a match-by-match basis. Now, option 2, renew now and transfer your season ticket to a friend or family member for either part of or the full season. Pretty much exactly the same thing. Give or take a few lines. And option 3 that came out yesterday lunchtime is secure your seat for larger home crowds. It says alternatively, season ticket holders who are hesitant about returning to matches during this time can opt to secure their seat by making a payment of 30% of their season ticket cost. Once a 70% capacity or upwards is permitted for the Premier League matches at London Stadium, you will have the right to purchase the remaining pro rata value of your season ticket in a sales window. This option will ensure you retain your season ticket. However, this will not permit you to enter the automatic ballot for matches before capacity reaches 70% or upwards. Spurs allow you to do that. That really irritates me that Spurs are allowing people to do that. In the event of a capacity of 70% or greater is not permitted at the London Stadium during the 2021 season, your 30% part payment will be offset against your season ticket for the 2022 season. To secure this offer, please contact the ticket office. Now, I had a look on the e-ticketing today. You don't have to contact the ticket office because you can actually do it online. It's not very obvious because when you go to put your season ticket into the cart, your match refund has already disappeared. But when you go through to process the payment, you can choose the option of putting your club cash back in. Now, my issue with this is the fact that they couldn't wait 24 hours after the season had finished to announce this. This is my massive issue with it. I understand that nobody's exactly happy with everything, and quite rightly so, because we're as I said, part of the lockdown, and I'll still maintain it. You'll never please everybody with this. I know that there are a lot of people that are thinking about taking option 3. It's a fail-safe measure because we don't know what's going to happen in 10 or 11 months' time. I know there's been a lot of backlash of people still not being happy with it. Some people overreacting with it, both in a positive way and in a negative way. But Marshy, come to you first. What do you think about these three options we've got available?
Honestly,
yeah, go for it.
How long you got? It's but I think it's a for a club, okay, for a club that suggests that the support of the life and the soul, for a start off, which is black and white what has been said. The whole lot of it's a disgrace. I'll tell you for why, okay, because you're going to stump up, say mine's £600, okay, for the East Upper. I sit on the corner flag. Diagonal left is the tunnel.
That must be painful.
599 is exactly. And
oh mate, you said you sit on the corner flag. That must be painful.
Well, quite a way away from that. I actually, to be honest with you, I sat in the Bobby Moore lower for the best part of 20 years, Upton Park, loved it. And I go with my old man, and we sort of decided that we wanted to be a bit higher up. And we actually don't see. I know obviously everyone's away from the pitch, and they're aiming at doing some more construction works or whatever to maybe essentially bring us closer. But if I'm going to pay the club £600, okay, and they're going to say, right, you're going to go into an automatic ballot. So the fixtures come out, okay, so we get Man United at home. I don't get a ticket for Man United at home, but then I'm priority for West Brom at home, with no disrespect to that. Now, that's total bollocks for a start off. I think the only way that it's beneficial on the second option is that if, like for me, my dad isn't renewing next season, so he's going to write a letter or email the club or whatever it is that they say you have to do in order to get someone else's name put onto it, which essentially, in the hope that for my boy, being only one, almost two, will be a lot cheaper. So it's saving money on that sense with what I have in my cart for the club cash money. That is a potential possibly. But, with all the safeguarding of the government guidelines with the distancing, social distancing, if you're wanting to grow in a group, and we all like to go with people, we all build bonds, we've been going with various people, no doubt, for years, as have I, the best part of 20 years, the people that I sit around, and would love to continue in order to do that. But how are you in order to, generate a bit of atmosphere and actually enjoy a game when you've still got that social distancing part in the ground, obviously, that needs to be accounted for? So essentially, you're not with them people. You might be going to the same game as them people, but you're not able to do what you would do on a normal match day. I just think it's it's just a money grabbing exercise as quick as they can. Like you said, they finished the season. We finished it on as good a high, if you like, as we could, secured the safety, and they couldn't wait to get the email out. And they've done that much of a wrong thing that they've now listened to supporters, if you like, and then they've come out with this third option, which is supposed to help people to do that. Well, there's no guarantee for a start off that they're going to get 70% or more. You're going to get a refund or whatever. But then, it determines when you're going to, how they're going to like sort of distinguish between who goes and who doesn't. I know it's a ballot situation, but I just think that, again, it's something that's not been worked very well. I listened to Frank's say on it on the Claret Blue Army TV, and I totally agree. And like you said, John, which I agree with as well, you're never going to get everyone happy with it. I know various people that have already renewed, and listen, no doubt I have gripes with it, but at the end of the day, when you calm down, you think about it, you're not going to renew it through gritted teeth. But it doesn't mean to say that I think it's totally wrong, totally unacceptable. I don't think that if they had the supporters' best interests at heart, I've had people coming onto my mentions on Twitter saying, well, what more could they really do? I think processes could be thought of a lot better. And I think they could maybe have taken a little bit more time in order to get the right case scenarios, instead of the embarrassment of adding a third option through the supporters, causing, like you said, unrest about it. Which, there isn't any easy way, don't get me wrong, but I mean, at the end of the day, it's like anything, it's a straight choice. You're either going to do it, and no disrespect to us four, if we're not going to do it, they'll get another four in to do it. Yeah. So they're going to get their money either way, and whether you want to do that as a stump up, like front option, or you're going to finance it. I mean, then you go through a totally different setup with all the financing and getting on that acceptance roll again, and it's just it's just not good enough. I think if anything, it's driving good supporters away, and fortunately enough, I attend the away games as well, and I'm just more interested in a sense to see what they're going to suggest about the away credits, because I ended on I think sort of almost 50 credits, and I've heard various people say on forums and Twitters and whatever's Instagrams that it could all be zeroed in order to give everyone an opportunity. So you might be giving an opportunity to someone that comes into the London Stadium with a Liverpool shirt on, who's not even a West Ham supporter, that could get an Arsenal ticket in front of someone like us or someone else that's been going for multiple amounts of years. It's just, I think it's a driving force just to drive people away, and I think it really does test the waters, but again, it's down to the individual, and I think more so than not you'll see the majority of us renewing, but doesn't make it right at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, one thing that does irk me in those option briefings alone is the fact that it doesn't say in option 3 that you'll still be in a ballot. You'll still be in a ballot, because at the end of the day, if they come out when it finishes at the big when they start doing the relocation process, which again I took really big issue with. All right, it's from one point of view, it's fine that we've got a month to think about it, but to ask people to think about a month when you've got other things to think about, you've got other priorities to think about. That's my issue. My issue with it is the fact that using the relocation process as an excuse to get everybody to make a decision when they've got to think about. For example, the majority of people that are going to be furloughed at this time at the minute, where am I really going to have to fork out 600 quid when that could be, or 500 quid? How much deductions the club cash had, when they could use that for paying their rent, or they could use that for paying their TV license and everything else. That's my biggest gripe with it. I mean, I was very happy when the information came out that there was this option, because it did appeal. It did seem to say that they were listening to the supporters. Now, once I've kind of thought about it a little bit more, I think it's more of a pressure from the fan groups that attended the meeting with them that said this is a bad mistake. And then once it's released and it started coming out on Twitter, and then they automatically put it out the following day, because they had it ready to go just in case there was any backlash on it. But Bill, what are your thoughts, mate?
Yeah, well, I completely agree, guys, with what you said. I think this is another example of the board, Gold, Sullivan and Brady treating us as customers rather than fans. There's been countless examples of that, and this is another one. In the lead up to obviously the last game, I was wondering what they would do about next season, and I did fear this would happen. They would just charge us full money. and no concessions of any kind, especially when people were losing their jobs with COVID-19, etc. To be charged your full season ticket value, and you've got a month to pay it. I think what Marshy said, I think it's just a disgrace, really. But this shows the real good tool that social media is. That fans were rightly up in arms about this, and I just dread to think if social media wasn't around, this would have gone through, and there would have been nothing that we could have done about it. I mean, we've said this all throughout this video that they're not fit to run this club properly, and this is just another bad example of it.
Just jumping on what Kieran was saying here, so we need an analytical centre, a training ground, transfer policy, philosophy, and they can't even sort out a seating plan. It absolutely sums it up completely. Frankie, your thoughts on these options?
I don't buy that we are being treated as customers, not fans. At the end of the day, we are customers. However, you're still supposed to treat your customers right, but we don't, and that's my problem. And there is no way that what they've put out as option 3 was a response to fans getting upset. It was pure and simply, they realised that there was going to be a huge chunk of people who couldn't afford to renew their season ticket. And they thought, how can we still get money out of those people? And that's why option 3 was designed, not to give people who were shielding a chance to retain their ticket. Let's have it right. You're going to pay 30% and you have zero chance of watching any football next season. So you're paying 30% for nothing. You are not going to get to watch football next season, and you've parted with 30% of your money. And that's crazy.
That just about in? Sorry, Frank. Is that is what we're saying, though, isn't it? If you stamp up the 30%, you don't automatically go into a ballot, do you? Which is what obviously you're saying about that.
If the stadium opens up to 70% plus capacity, then you will be starting put into the ballots if you pay the remainder of your season ticket in full. Then you can start entering ballots again. It's not, I'm shielding at the moment because medically I can't go, and all of a sudden things get better, so I go, well, I'm comfortable with going now. I want to pay up my season ticket. No, you can't do that. You have to wait until 70% capacity is reached before you can do a thing. And it's highly unlikely that that's going to happen. So you're not going to watch any football. So people are parting with 30% for nothing.
Just you're right, but at the same point, it does say you reserve the right to purchase the remaining games. So you can choose not to if you're not happy.
Absolutely, and that's fine. However, you can't then get that 30% back because they've said that the 30% has to roll over onto your following year's season ticket. So you can't even request your money back if you can't go to a football match next season. You have to roll it into the following year. But we know that a lot happens in that amount of time. Absolutely. You might not be in a position, you might move away, you might lose your job, you might move property, you might move country, anything can happen. But they've said that that money has to roll on to the following year's season ticket. You can't even request that money back should you want to. That's wrong. And the whole thing about it, about how everyone jumped out and went, oh my God, yeah, they've listened to the fans. No, they didn't. They just worked out that there was a massive chunk of supporters who couldn't afford it, couldn't renew, so they thought, how can we still get some money out of them? Well, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll put this 30% thing in there, which all that is doing, and all that 30% does, is make sure that the following year, you will still have your season ticket at the price that you have it for now. That's it. It is literally just it's just securing your season ticket for 2 seasons' time. That's all it is. And the way that they've made it seem like there still might be a possibility to go to football next season, and it's totally wrong. One thing I wouldn't mind so much. See how Kieran put in there. We need an analytical centre, a training ground, a transfer policy, and they've said they needed money. I wouldn't mind if they come out and said, right, we need this 20-30 million pound, whatever it raises, because we want to go and do X, Y, and Z. If you want to go and do that, mate, I'll give you what. If I know it's going to be used in the right way, that's fair. And there should have been a chairman's statement that was put out and saying this is where that money is going, not just because you want us to fund and bankroll you. That's not what I want to give my money up for. But if you was going to cut, at the end of the day, we've already been told we've got no transfer budget. So why should I part with that bit of cash?
Well, see, the thing is, mate, is the problem.
Because you're paying for Eze, mate.
Yeah. Okay. But this, I mean, this is the thing. I mean, the amount of money that goes to season tickets, in terms of everybody getting theirs, blah blah, right? Is what 10, 12 million pound. I don't think I don't think it makes much of a dent. But we've always said, and frankly, I'm 100% behind you on that one. They should be saying, right, this is the plan, right? We will be using X amount of this for this A, B, and C, and all that sort of stuff, right? The fact that they don't is what is irking a lot of people, because we are empty cash pockets to them as far as they're concerned. Even if we weren't in this situation, and you've been a season ticket holder for as long as Marshy has, for example, right? Or Bill or me or whatever, right? You phone them up and go, I've been a season ticket holder for 20 years. I'm not renewing anymore. They'll be sorry to see you go. That's it. That's all it is.
There's no loyalty, mate.
No, but they're asking us to do the same. They're asking us to do what they won't do, and
that just sums up the whole argument of what we've been saying all night. That's the sort of people that they are. That what they should be doing is what that fella said: analytical things, transfer budgets, transfer policies, all the rest of it. They're not the sort of people that are going to come and do that. Like, do you know what I mean? That's what normal people, if you like, for want of a better word, would do. But the people that we have running our club is, it's all for what they can gain out of you. Like you say, you could ring them up tomorrow and say, listen, I've been a season ticket holder 30 years. I've been going for 50 years, whatever. They don't give a shit. Like I say, if you don't go, John or Frank or Bill or me, they'll just go to the next body. There's no nothing keeping you, and that's it. It's a choice you make. You're either going to do it and essentially put up and shut up, or you're going to go, listen, I've had enough.
I just want to make it clear, I'm renewing at 100%. I'm going to renew my season ticket. But what I feel like, all those people who suddenly went, oh, that's great now, the board have done that, and at least they've listened, they weren't the people who were struggling and are isolating or have medical conditions, and all of a sudden they're trying to speak for these people. These people still are in a really bad place, and while it's not me, my dad is in that position. He's got leukemia at the moment. He has to stay indoors. He can't leave his house. What does he do with his season ticket? And those people deserve to be defended. And it shouldn't be all of us just flippantly going, well, I can renew, so that's great. Option 3 sounds like it's good enough for them. That's fine. Actually think about what those people, because that group that fits into that category, they're normally the people who are quite vulnerable at the moment, are isolating because of medical conditions. They're in quite a bad position. So actually think about them a little bit and make sure that option 3 is a good option for them before we start saying and taking the pressure off the board from actually making some changes to what's going on. Because I think we should have kept that pressure on and actually got an even better option for those people, because I don't think what they've put out there is good enough.
I mean, Andy, just popping back to what you said earlier, he said, I prefer option 3 because he's shielding at the minute. But do you lose the money next summer? Nobody knows, mate. Nobody knows at the moment. If you don't renew that, at this point nobody knows. Absolutely nobody knows. There's only one club that I've seen. I had a look at Saints. I had a look at Spurs. I had a look at Burnley, Chelsea, Leeds. I mean, even Leeds have a £10 waiting list.
So have they all released their because I must admit I've not seen any other club, their information on releasing their season ticket information.
Burnley have said nothing. Chelsea have said nothing. Palace have said nothing. Villa have said nothing. The only people, I say, Saints have got roughly the same sort of thing that we're talking about. Spurs is a bit more user friendly, shall we say? The only football club. So I did look at every single one of them. Just picked a few ones at random. The only ones that I saw that have actually done what I personally feel is the right thing is Newcastle, because they're saying we're waiting on more information before we tell you about renewals. I think that's.
I was going to say, because nobody knows when you can even go back to a game. I think West Ham are of the idea and presumption that we're going to be going back in September.
Yeah. Well,
you know,
October at the very, very earliest.
October,
but
sorry, yeah.
I mean, the FA have agreed with the Premier League and everybody else that for the Charity Shield, they're going to start letting people into Wembley to watch that, to see how that goes, and then they'll make more decisions on off the back of that. But as I said at the start when we started talking about this side of it, is you're not going to please everybody. Nobody's going to be. You know, we're in a completely unknown situation, and have been for 4.5, 5 months now. We could be going back in January. We could be going back in November next year. Nobody knows. Absolutely nobody knows. Especially with all this second wave stuff coming in Europe. It's gonna happen. It's going to happen here at some point. We are going to go into a second lockdown. For example, I was talking to a friend of mine earlier who's Spanish, and he went over to Spain for a little while and came back before the air bridge stuff was stopped. And he's saying, person for person, we've got more people infected in Spain than they do. And you know they're shutting the borders down already as a result of it. So it's happening at some point. But this is the thing. Frankie, I'm the same as you, mate. I'm going to be renewing at 100%. The way I'm looking at things. My first instinct was to look at option 3, but I thought to myself the same as you. I don't want to not miss out on at any point. Especially bearing in mind the meat and the potatoes of this channel that is doing watch-alongs. You know, I'll be very happy not to go to a home game and be able to watch it on telly in its place. But there are going to be games that I don't want to be out of the running for. You know, same as you were saying earlier, Marshy. You know, you might lose, not be able to go and see Man United at home, and then be able to go and see West Brom or Crystal Palace.
Well, the problem is, say that, you know, anyone wants to go to Tottenham. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But say that you don't get that, and then you get Villa at home. And it's no disrespect to these other minnow clubs as opposed to the top 4 or the top 6, but you telling me that you'd rather watch West Brom than Man City?
Can you imagine as well, you've got Tottenham at home in a real crucial game of the season. Say we have a good season, we're in the top half, and you want to beat Tottenham to have a chance getting in Europe or whatever it may be. Imagine it'd be a miracle, but imagine we are there. And the capacity is at 60%. And you've got 60% of proper West Ham in there with no tourists. Everyone who thinks the atmosphere is going to be terrible, I actually think 60% of proper West Ham in there with no tourists will be pretty damn good. Yeah. If you're sitting there and you can't go back because it's not at 70% and you can't get in that ballot, you'll be sitting there gutted. I don't care what you say. Everyone said no, I won't. You'd be gutted.
Of course you would.
But this is the thing, mate. Is they may allow tourists in. There's been no reading. There's no article say it's going to be only people that are going into the game. It could be those who've got season tickets. You know, because
that really will sum it up then.
But this is the problem. Also, on down to the fact is if we can go to games, there's a very, very good chance, as things stand at the moment, things could change in a few weeks' time. But as things stand at the moment, we're not going to be able to sing, we're not going to be able to chant. All we'll be able to do is clap. Now, granted, that's better than nothing, but there, you know, it's the funny thing. The first thing I came into my mind when I read about this was it's going to be exactly the same thing as it was when we moved to the London Stadium in the first time, where we were all told to sit down and we all shouted "fuck off." You know, that's exactly what it's going to be. There are going to be still people that are going to be singing. There are still people that are going to be shouting and screaming and the rest of it, because that's what you do at a football game. And that's going to be half the problem. But I would rather be in a ground where people are screaming and shouting and it doesn't make any difference than sitting there and we're just all sitting there being polite like we're at the fucking opera. You know?
You like the opera though, JP?
Fuck off. I knew you were gonna. I knew one of you three were gonna say something similar to that. I could see the cogs wearing.
Marshy beat me to it.
Sorry, mate.
No, that's all right.
But yeah, I mean, as I say, we're just in a no-win situation, and we're going to be in that for a long time. And talking a long time, Marshy, I did say we're going to try and keep it to an hour and a half, but you jinxed it saying we're going to go over 2 hours. So it's your fault, mate.
It's you going on, mate. It's a verbal diarrhea in you. It's just going on.
But no, honestly, it's been brilliant having you guys on again. And Frank, thank you very much for joining us today, mate. You got it. It's, as I say, we've covered a lot, not as much as I thought we would do, to be honest. But you know, it's been a good conversation, because Marshy, as you said, mate, there's conversations that the four of us can have about a couple of topics alone that will be a couple of hours. I mean, I'm surprised the conversation about VR was as short as it was. That in itself is another 2-hour conversation. But guys, thank you very much for everybody who's been in the chat. There's been some great conversations in there, and you know, some people have been some little idiots as always. But in general, it's been absolutely fantastic. So thank you very much for joining us for the last 2.5 hours. If you're new around here, welcome. By all means, please do hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to get to 2,000 by the August bank holiday. Don't think it's going to happen, but it'd be great if it does. It means it'd mean the world to me and to everybody else, because the more people that watch these videos, the more exposure the channels get. We've had quite a fair few viewers today as well, for that matter. But guys, thank you very, very much for your time. And Marshy, Bill, and Frankie, as I said, thank you very much for your input. We've all had very different opinions on things, and it's all been good. It's been absolutely brilliant. So guys, in the meantime, you might see me in the weekend. I'm going to try and do something. I haven't plotted it out yet, but I'm going to try and do a video at least twice a week. So in the meantime, guys, take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.